Gods. Kings. Fire. And blood. Dreams didn't make us kings. Dragons did.
The threat of war looms.
There is no war so hateful as a war between kin.
I mean to fight this war and win it.
I will not be thought weak. I wish to spill blood.
And no war so bloody as a war between dragons.
You stand with a dragon of House Targaryen! What do you want?
It does seem to me that you've made rather a mess here.
Whose side are you on?
The old ways call for justice.
Prince Daeron's dragon was taken to wing.
House Targaryen is the blood of the dragon. If any may lay claim to it, what are we then?
With these dragons,
Peace will be restored.
Duty is sacrifice. It eclipses all things, even blood. All men of honour must pay its price. North owes a great duty to the Seven Kingdoms, one older than any oath. Since the days of the first men, we have stood as guardians against the cold and the dark. But my ancestor, Torrhen Stark, began a tradition by making an offering at the onset of winter. 1 in 10 men from our household was to be chosen to fortify the watch. This is not a sentence, but an honour. A duty embraced by all who serve the North. Even by mine own kin. The North must stand ready. Winter is coming.
Winter is coming indeed, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, anyone who saw the trailer for the next week finale knows exactly what I am talking about. It looks like we indeed are going to be having our first appearance of the Winter Wolves in the finale. And I got to say, I could not be more excited about that. And I know my Stark fans are definitely probably just as excited about that as I am myself, as we actually have our first glimpse of the Winter Wolves. And boy, do they look like every bit of the Greybeards that Cregan Stark has promised. Look at these glorious, glorious Greybeards, ladies and gentlemen. Look at these northern grizzled warriors. Yes, hell yes. This is what I've been waiting for. This is what I was really looking forward to season 2 and beyond for. I know it's a Targaryen story, obviously, but you guys know me. House Stark has always been my favorite house. And even if it's only a glimpse, I have very much been looking forward to seeing some Northern Stark action on House of the Dragon. And now it looks like we have the Winter Wolves. And boy, are they just as advertised. You think about the Winter Wolves in the books, and they're described as literally just like this. Old, grizzled graybeards carrying crooked iron swords, maces, spears, all kind of different weapons that they kind of just scrounge together. It really is a ragtag bunch, but they are some of the most formidable fighters that we are going to see on the series. And this is great. This is absolutely great. I wonder if this right here could be the man himself, Roddy the Ruin. Which one is Roddy the Ruin, ladies and gentlemen? Where is Roddy the Ruin? I get a feeling it could be this guy. I get the feeling it could be this guy. Could this be Roddy the Ruin? But there we have it, folks. We are getting the Winter Wolves. The Winter Wolves. But that is next week. That is next week. We have all week to dive into all things House Stark and the Winter Wolves. And we'll talk a little bit more about what's going to be coming next week, as well as we did also get this phenomenal shot. And I got to say, I'm kind of not disappointed, but I'm a little bummed that they revealed something this big in a teaser trailer. A lot of us have been wondering, are we going to see Daeron the Daring? Are we going to see Tessarion in season 2 or 3? It's been a big, big question. So I got to say, I'm a little disappointed that they revealed this in a trailer. And I wish they would have saved this reveal for the actual episode. I'm a little bummed they put this shot in that trailer. But nonetheless, we got the confirmation. There it is, Daeron the Daring, and the Blue Queen, Tessarion herself, will be making an appearance. Awesome to see. Don't get me wrong. I'm super excited. Just a little puzzle that they would choose to reveal something so massive in a trailer and not save it for the actual episode. I can only imagine the reaction we all would have had next week if we would have just seen this coming out of the blue and we didn't know it was coming. So it's a little weird they chose to reveal that way. But nonetheless, Daeron the Daring is coming, ladies and gentlemen. We got some awesome stuff to look forward to next week. And, of course, we have some awesome stuff to dive into this week as well. As I must say, this was definitely a much, much better episode than the previous two that we have gotten. Not only in action-wise, but story-wise, dialogue-wise, good character moments. This was definitely a step above the last two episodes, in my opinion anyway. And I cannot wait to get everybody's opinion on this episode as well. But before we do that, we got to say what is up to the awesome, awesome chat. Let me scroll up here, say hi to my peeps, and welcome everybody. I hope everybody is having a phenomenal start to their week. Hope you guys enjoyed the latest episode, and this one was definitely an interesting one. Definitely a decent amount to unpack. We got Ando in the house. What is up, Ando? Winter is coming. Yes, winter is officially coming now. The Winter Wolves are coming, ladies and gentlemen. The Winter Wolves are coming. Love it. I love it. We got Cheryl Baxter in the house. What is up, Cheryl? Good to see you, my friend. Welcome, welcome. Got Bernie in the building. Vala Mogulis, all. I am here. Well, a Vala Dohyrus, right back to you as well, my friend. Welcome, welcome. Glad to have you. We got Wolf Spear in the building. What is up, Wolf Spear? Good to see you as well. We got Vic in the house. What is up, Vic? Always good to see my pal, Vic. Hope you are doing well, my friend. Hope you are doing well. We got Jason Moore in the house as well. What is up, Jason? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We got Makada in the house. What is up? Good evening. And yes, Jeremy is the man. No, you guys are the men and women of the chat. I mean, like I said, I am just a humble servant of the chat. You guys are the real kings and queens, as far as I'm concerned. You guys are the lifeblood of this channel. Without this awesome chat to engage with, I certainly would not be here, because it's not fun just getting on here and talking to yourself. You know, I want to engage with you guys. I want to see what you guys have to say. That's what makes these streams fun, in my opinion. So no, you guys are the best, and I cannot thank you all for all the support you guys have been showing us lately. It's been crazy, as we just recently passed 20,000 subscribers, which is something I never thought would happen on our tiny, humble channel here. So thank you. Thank you guys. You guys really are the best. Like my pal Leo V. What is up, Leo V? Good to see you, my friend. Got Misty in the building. What is up, Misty? May the gods be ever in your favor. Yes! May the gods be in your favor indeed. And it looks like the gods were in a few of our characters' favors, but not all. Not all, but a few characters. Call it what you will. As they say in Fire and Blood, the will of the gods or just the caprice of dragons. but it looks like we have 2 new riders added to the ranks of the Blacks. And 2 new phenomenal-looking dragons as well, in Vermithor and Silverwing. And man, how freaking glorious did Vermithor look. Silverwing, too, don't get me wrong, they both looked absolutely phenomenal. But seeing freaking Vermithor just absolutely go savage inside the Dragon Mount like that was a sight to behold. That is the House of the Dragon stuff that we came to see. Hell yeah. Hell yes. Rage Templar says, Vermithor looked insane and sounded even better. Imagine he is almost half the age of Vhagar. He is the only dragon to maybe match Balerion in size. Yeah, I mean, Vermithor is formidable. Like, I had a feeling Vermithor was going to be big, but boy, is he big. The Bronze Fury is, again, every bit as much as advertised. And yeah, absolutely massive dragon. Absolutely massive dragon. Seeing that dragon Vermithor go up against Vhagar would be an insane fight. An absolutely insane fight. Vhagar might be a little bit bigger, but Vermithor is a little bit younger, a little bit quicker, maybe a little bit sprier. That would be an interesting one. That would be an interesting one. Vermithor versus Vhagar. Hell yes. Got Faraday in the house. What is up, Faraday Beam? Good to see you as well. We got Barbara Webb from Texas in the house. What is up, Barbara? Tuning in from Texas. Always good to see you. Hell yes. We got Natalie in the house. What is up, Natalie? Good to see you as well. We got Big Wizard in the house. Oh my God, who made this intro? It's so fire. Oh wow, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, that was me actually. We have I have a bunch of awesome co-hosts that usually help me with a lot of our intros. But the House of the Dragon one was actually one I did, and just something I kind of whipped together real quick. But thank you. That means a lot. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. We got Henry Bemis in the house. What is up, Henry Bemis? Vermithor stomping through the Dragon Pit like Godzilla through Tokyo. So dope. And it really was, wasn't he? And I remember when before season 1 aired, when they first dropped the trailer for season 1, and we all got our very first look at Vhagar. And it wasn't a really good look. We could only really see Vhagar's foot as she was taking a step. But man, it reminded me exactly like that. I was like, holy crap, this is not a dragon. This is a damn dinosaur with wings. This thing is massive. Bigger than dinosaurs even at that point. Far bigger. So yeah, this was Godzilla is much more apt. Godzilla stomping through Tokyo. Yeah, Vermithor was phenomenal. Vermithor was phenomenal. Good stuff. We got Inside the Squared Circle with King Judah. What is up? Good to see you, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, Jeremy, I've been calling Rhaenyra the Queen of Bastards for weeks, and when she said she wants to raise an army of bastards, I died. Well, it was a accurate premonition on your part. Inside the Squared Circle with King Judah, an accurate portrayal. You called it. You called it, and here we are. An army of bastards are coming. An army of dragon seeds is coming. Hell yes. Hell yes. We got Rip the Dodo Birds in the house. What is up, my friend? Always good to see you as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We got Channel in the building. What is up, Channel? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Got Quan Solar in the house as well. What is up, Quan? Hello, chat. How's everyone? I hope everyone is doing great. Hope all of you are having a phenomenal start to your week again. And I hope you guys are ready to dive into episode 7, as we are going to do right here. Now, of course, in our usual fashion, I do have a few scenes queued up that we can take a look at, but I also have stills from pretty much every scene from episode 7. So we're going to be diving into it. We are going to be diving into it. Don't see Cregan in the front, though, right? No, I didn't see Cregan. No. Unfortunately, I did not see Cregan present. And Cregan did say as much that he couldn't really go south right now. He's too busy preparing for winter. So I wasn't really expecting to see Cregan among the Winter Wolves. Not yet. I mean, I'm sure he's going to join the fray a little bit later on, based on if the book is any blueprint. But no, based off that shot, I did not see any Cregan. I did not see Cregan himself. But again, I wasn't really expecting to see him. He did say he was a little busy preparing for winter. Winter is coming, after all. Winter is coming. Quan Solar says, I loved this episode with the dragons showing personality. And that's one thing that I've really liked about House of the Dragon in general. where in Game of Thrones the dragons were cool. Don't get me wrong; they were ferocious and very formidable. But here in House of the Dragon, like you said, Quan, these dragons like have actual personality. The dragons are characters into themselves, whereas on Game of Thrones they were just weapons, really. But here they're living, breathing creatures with personalities, with thoughts, with feelings, and they kind of are almost characters in and of themselves. So I really like how they're portraying the dragons on House of the Dragon. I do think they're doing the dragons much better justice on here than they did in Game of Thrones. For sure. Love them dragons, says Laura Butler. Hell yes, Laura Butler. I love those dragons as well. Hell yes. Hell yes. Nael and Quan Solar's already giving it a 9 out of 10 avocados. Yes, we will definitely be rating the heck out of this episode a little bit later on, but I love it. Love the enthusiasm. And yes, Tessarion, the reveal of Tessarion, the blue friggin' queen. Yes. Good stuff. Good stuff. But all right, yeah, let's dive into some of this. Now, of course, I want to hear from some of you guys. What was your favorite scenes from episode 7? Which scenes stuck out to you guys the most? Obviously, we had some phenomenal Dragon Seed scenes with Vermithor and Silverwing, but there were some other really, really good character and dialogue scenes in this episode as well. So definitely sound off in the chat. Which were some of your favorite scenes? And I'm going to pull up one of mine personally. Might be actually my favorite scene in the entire episode, actually. And that, of course, was the scene with the Dragon Keepers. Something about this Dragon Keeper scene, I've been very fascinated with the order of Dragon Keepers ever since Ryan Condal kind of introduced that into the show and started really going a little bit deeper on the lore and mythos and order of the Dragon Keepers. So that scene was definitely one of my favorites, seeing the Dragon Keepers kind of take a stand against Rhaenyra and how they were really against her, going down this path. They saw what happened with the previous quote-unquote Andal, as they referred to Stefan Darklyn as. They were not feeling it. They were not feeling it. And I thought we got some incredible dialogue, absolutely incredible dialogue from the Dragon Keepers here in this scene. So I'm going to play this clip here, and I would love to get each and every one of your takes on this scene. What did you guys think of the Dragon Keepers?
Kesir bukilaksirisa.
Skurion judra.
Drizot andaligita. Vetetiri rudax. Ziris aldriza exio istosaor. Sesir bonidao.
Vasir? Jaihosa.
Si voskizi isi. Uepo valirio sete non tolijor keso vihot montasmo isi. Polaro timtriti sitnin kiapot mentani sosi daor. Il voletir vakejot rakilos daor.
Oof. I love it. I love it. Super short, super sweet, but I love what the Dragon Keeper is not only saying here, but I love what the Dragon Keepers are standing for here. We get some really interesting dialogue in particular. Now, not only do the Dragon Keepers look at the dragons as being sacred, they are sacred last remnants of the old magic of old Valyria. They revere these dragons. These aren't just animals to the Dragon Keepers. They're worshipped. So I really love this line from the Dragon Keeper in particular. They are the last magic of old Valyria in this sad world. They are not playthings for the games of men. And again, I loved this dialogue, and this dialogue instantly reminded me of a scene that we heard Viserys say in season 1, when Viserys is talking to Rhaenyra and talking to her about how the illusion that we control the idea that we can control the dragons is just an illusion. And then later on in the season, we also hear Viserys say they were a power that men should never have trifled with. So it seems like Viserys and the Dragon Keepers kind of share a not same but kind of similar mentality when they're looking at the dragons in terms of what they represent, and how that maybe men should never even have tried to bend these beasts to their will, considering who they are and what they kind of represent, the reverence around them. So I really, really love this scene. And welcome, Queen Khaleesi. Good to see you, my friend. Perfect timing. We are just actually diving into this was one of my favorite scenes in episode 7. This awesome scene with the Dragon Keepers where they kind of take a stand against what Rhaenyra is doing. And I love it because, I mean, the Dragon Keepers are totally hashtag Team Dragon. Like I have been myself. You guys have heard me since day one. I'm not Team Black. I'm not Team Green. I am Team Dragon. Team Dragon are the real victims in the dance, as far as I'm concerned. Not that I have anything against Team Black or Team Green. I love a lot of characters on both sides. But I've always been Team Dragon. I feel like Team Dragons are the real victims of the dance. And I love what this guy is saying here and what he's kind of representing, how he's really trying to protect the last vestige of Old Valyria. These dragons are all that's left of Old Valyria. And they're not just the playthings of men, so you guys can win an Iron Throne. It's just, it was a really awesome scene. I love what the Dragon Keepers were doing here. What do you think about this scene?
Oh, no, I liked that. I definitely did. I think there was a lot of confusion for people that don't understand the Dragon Keeper's role. And the Dragon Keepers are there pretty much to serve the dragons. The dragons are their gods. Yeah, so I thought that was really cool that they did it from that point of view. And it was very true to the book in that aspect. Not necessarily like the scene, but I'm saying their role, because they didn't really explain much in the first season what the Dragon Keepers do. Now people are seeing, that they are there to serve the dragons, and most of all, protect the dragons. The whole order of guards is just created for the dragons. It's not necessarily for anyone else but the dragons themselves. So it was very honorable.
It is, and that's I absolutely 100% agree with you and with Quan. It's I love the honor behind it. It's like, you know, they don't mind going against their queen, you know, their rightful queen. They're taking a stand against their queen because they're putting their neck on the line for these dragons, for what they believe in, for what they believe these dragons are a symbol of, and what they should stand to represent. So it was just a great scene. And I really want to see a little bit more from the Dragon Keepers. I remember, you know, in season 1, I definitely had that feeling as well, where I want to learn more about these Dragon Keepers. It seems like such a fascinating order. Where did they come from? Did they come all the way from Old Valyria? When they were in Old Valyria, did each Dragon Lord family have a own detachment of Dragon Keepers, similar to how every house has a maester in Westeros? Like, I really hope I'm not expecting them to do it on the show, but I would love for them to kind of dive a little bit more into the order, because there's a bunch of different kind of subsects of Dragon Keepers.
Yes.
As Ryan Condal kind of explains it, there's saddle makers, there's trainers, there's all different kinds of sects of these Dragon Keepers. So I would love for them to kind of dive a little bit more into their order, because they're fascinating.
Pretty much. I mean, I know that they were founded in 56 AC after the whole incident with Rhaenyra Targaryen, how she pretty much like took Balerion and took off, and her death.
Right.
So when she returned,
took her.
So when she returned with Balerion to Westeros, Jaehaerys was the one that founded them.
That's right. They needed someone to keep an eye on the dragons. You're right. I totally forgot about that.
And there was pretty much, I know that there were 77. There was supposed to be 77 of them. There's something with the number 7, so it's very significant.
We see it all over through A Song of Ice and Fire too. Seven's all, Faith of the Seven, 7 kingdoms. Seven's all over the place, all throughout Song of Ice and Fire. The trial of the 7, which we see Maegor go through during his regency, or as he's trying to ascend to the throne. But no, I just imagine how chaotic it must have been before they had Dragon Keepers. While the dragons, before they had the Dragon Pit, before they had the Dragon Keepers, I imagine how chaotic it must have been just trying to keep these dragons in check. And like I said, I really hope that these Dragon Keeper jobs come with some form of hazard pay. Because if we look at all of these Dragon Keepers, just about every single one has some sort of awful scar or burn. Every single one of them has taken some kind of damage, it seems. So hopefully they get some hazard pay.
Well, you have to think they're thinking of these dragons as like gods.
Yeah, they
So
revere
in an
them.
aspect, yes, they revere them and they respect them and everything. Also, too, here's a fun fact because you know how I get. The Dragon Keepers in King's Landing were the ones that gave Caraxes his name. Yeah, the guards, pretty much.
Yeah, because he was the most ferocious young dragon in the Dragon Pit at the time. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So they gave him the nickname Caraxes, like the bloodworm.
The bloodworm.
Yeah.
The bloodworm. I love that. And that's one thing I'm a little bummed. Like, we don't really hear him referred to as the bloodworm a lot in the show. You know, we hear Caraxes a lot. We even hear Vermithor referred to as the Bronze Fury in this episode, but we haven't heard the phrase the bloodworm a whole lot. And I'm a little bummed by that.
I think that might have to do with licensing issues, and I think that has to do with George's not a blog post and how he made the comment about Sept and Barth. So I have my own theories on it, and there's definitely enough information to back what I'm talking about. It's just hidden amongst things. But yeah, I think that may be why, because I know that HBO owns the rights to certain words and basically the names of certain houses and everything. I was trying to look into that stuff, and it's actually really crazy, the contract that George has with HBO. It's insane. So like if he wanted to do like a show someplace else, he could technically do another Game of Thrones show, but it would be without basically certain names.
Yeah, there's certain things you wouldn't be able to use. Like, you wouldn't be able to use House Stark, Lannister, like a lot of those houses are probably locked down on HBO. So he would probably be very limited in the source material he would be able to use if he did choose to take it to another network, which I don't expect he would ever do. Unless his relationship seriously deteriorates with HBO, I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. HBO pays him so incredibly well. He's not going. He ain't going anywhere. But it is very interesting to know that maybe they can't use the bloodworm word. Maybe that's one of the words that they might not have the rights to. Who knows? It'd be a little awkward that they wouldn't have the rights to that if they do have the rights to the Dance of the Dragons. That would be a little awkward. But yeah, I don't know. I just get the feeling it's just a name that they just don't use much. They're kind of just calling him Caraxes. We don't really hear Meleys referred to as the Red Queen a whole lot either. And speaking of queens, did you see the trailer for episode 10, for episode 8?
I did.
The finale?
So I knew you were so happy. The first thing I thought about,
you weren't happy at all. No, I'm actually kind of bummed for two things. I'm really kind of disappointed that they chose to reveal these things in a trailer.
I know that.
Especially Tessarion. I was happy to see the Winter Wolves. Like, hell fucking yes, bring on the Winter Wolves. I cannot wait to see Roddy the Ruin and the rest of the Winter Wolves. But when I saw that shot of Tessarion, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I was excited, don't get me wrong. But I'm like, really? Like, that's something kind of big. Why would you reveal that in a trailer? Like, they should have saved that reveal for inside the episode. The fandom would have gone nuts next week.
I was shocked, actually. I was really shocked that they showed Tessarion.
Yeah,
I was like, what? I thought you were probably so excited, to be honest.
I was excited too.
Jeremy's going to be so happy to see.
After the initial shock wore off, hell yes, I was excited because yes, you know me, Kayla. Tessarion's one of my favorite dragons of all time.
That's your girl,
I love blue's my favorite color. I love blue, and when I see Tessarion in this awesome cobalt blue with the bronze copper wings, hell yes, bring it on. But I was just a little shocked that they decided to reveal this in a trailer, especially considering all the hype that has been around Daeron the Daring. The entire fandom has been wondering all season 2, will we get him this season? Will we get him next season? Will we see Tessarion? Will we not? So I was just a little surprised that they chose to reveal this in a trailer, but it is still cool. I am super excited for the finale now. Hell yes.
They showed Tessarion before we see Sheepstealer. I was like, what kind of shit is that, though?
No, we haven't even seen Sheepstealer yet. And I do actually have a collection of shots. I went through not all of my files, but I went through a good amount of my screenshots, and I tried to find shots that were in the earlier trailers that haven't been in any of the episodes yet. And I do have a decent amount of shots that are all going to be in next week's episode, and we'll take a little bit of look at that in a little bit as well. But let me see what is going on with the chat. Let's catch up with you guys. What did you guys think of episode 7 and anything you guys want to talk about, we are down to discuss. Misty says, I think the Dragon Keepers are believers in magic. The ritual Rhaenyra is about to carry out is the same as blood sacrifice. And yeah, they kind of look at it as an abomination. They even call it, this is an abomination. It seems like they kind of humored Rhaenyra when it came to Sir Steffan Darkland just to see if it would work. And after it didn't, that's the first thing he says. You tried this already with one Andal. Your test failed. So yeah, they're kind of looking at this as it's some sort of blasphemy, even. And again, it just kind of even further points to the fact that they revere these dragons like gods. They're not just animals to these dragon keepers. They worship these beasts. Again, as the Dragon Keeper says, and I love that line of dialogue. They are the last bit of magic from Old Valyria. It's just, and they are. When you look at Old Valyria, all of the remnants of Old Valyria are practically gone and washed up. You have some remnants of Valyrian steel swords here and there, but nobody is making any new Valyrian steel swords anytime soon, as the recipe has been lost to time. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of remnants left from the Empire of Old Valyria. The dragons are the biggest remnant of that, and the Dragon Keepers want that to live on. They want these dragons to live on. They don't want them to die out and become extinct. And I love the line following where he says they are not meant for the playthings of men, for the games of men. Just really good dialogue. Loving what the Dragon Keepers are doing.
So one thing I wasn't happy about with the Dragon Keepers, I gotta be honest because it's just me. So I expected the Dragon Keepers to be like in their armor that was described in the book and everything, and in the show they gave them kind of like a monastic look. Is that the correct word? Like they made them like more of like a monastic like kind of.
They gave them like the poor fellow looks, kind of like those poor.
I feel like they look like monks. Kind of.
Yeah, they do kind of, and maybe that's what they were going for, a little bit more of a religious order look, give them that monk kind of look. Maybe that's what they were going for, maybe. But yeah, armor would definitely make more sense, especially considering the job that they're doing, the hazardous job that they are doing. Like, armor would be better, for sure.
These gorgeous scaled armor that they wore, and I was, I would have liked to see it, just because I think they've done such a phenomenal job with all of the armor that they've done this season on the characters. So it would have been cool to see that.
And we know they can get that scale effect right. They've done that with some of Daemon's armor at time. They did that with some of Rhaenys armor, that awesome looking kind of dragon scale look. So they're definitely capable of pulling that off. So no, that's a good point. That would have been pretty cool to see.
But yeah, that was my only complaint about them, because I just wanted to see the cool armor,
That is fine. And yeah, as Bernie points out, they have sticks, just sticks. What's that going to do against a dragon?
I think
and it's true. I mean, we see them with these
dragon glass daggers. That's what I thought they were carrying.
They do have dragon glass daggers too, and that's what actually one of them pulls out in the previous episode after he gets blasted by sea smoke. Instead of just sitting there and burning alive, he pulls out a dragon glass dagger and cuts his own throat. But we see the Dragon Keepers, for the most part, yes, they're carrying around these long sticks that are used to kind of herd the dragons in one direction or another. I don't think those are meant to be weapons per se. Those look more like they're used to herd the dragons in one direction or the other. Those long, long sticks that we see them carrying every once in a while. But yeah, they wouldn't do anything for defense. You're right in that regard, Bernie. They would not do anything in defense. That is for sure. Let's see what else we got. Jace claimed legitimacy from the fact that he was a dragon rider, Rhaenyra being his mother. But people like Ulf, like Hugh and Ulf, look more like Targaryens than Jace. And it seems like that's what Jace was worried about. It seems like Jace was incredibly worried about exactly stuff like that happening, because he knows he's a bastard. He's not stupid. He's known ever since he was a child. He even straight up confronts Rhaenyra when he's a child and asks her, "Is Harwin Strong my father?" And Rhaenyra just replies with, "You're a Targaryen. That's all that matters." So Jace is known. He's not stupid. I mean, he's known he knows he's a bastard. So yes, when you see Rhaenyra enacting a plan like this, I can kind of understand why Jace was so, upset, and why he was really scared in this moment, because he was worried about, his legacy, not only his personal legacy, but the legacy of House Targaryen as well. Everyone looks at the Targaryens and the dragons of, the Targaryens being closer to gods than men because of their connection to the dragons. So if it finds out that just anyone with a small drop of Targaryen blood can claim a dragon, he's worried about it hurting their legacy. But like you said, in even a more personal note, he's worried about it maybe messing up his legitimacy and his claim as well. As you pointed out, he doesn't look anything like Targaryen compared to some of these other characters. Like Hugh Hammer looks way more of a Targaryen than Jace does. So no, yeah, you make a good point, and I definitely see that's where Jace was coming from too. He's a little bit worried about his claim now. What could potentially get challenged because of this edict in this move that Rhaenyra is making. So yeah, I understand that.
I thought it was great foreshadowing. If they're going to follow certain things through, I think this is absolute great foreshadowing, and people will turn back to this scene sometime in the future. And I'll leave it at that. So okay, I think I pick up what you're putting down. It might be, it could be. I do have to say something about Hugh though, because I lost my shit last night. I was like, I jumped right on Twitter.
I don't know if you mean in a good way or in a bad way, but this was the first episode since episode 4 that I was literally doing the whole fucking fist pump in the air when I was watching the episode. I haven't got that feeling a whole lot this year in season 2, but this episode definitely did it. And that Hugh scene in particular did do it. I do have the Hugh scene clued up. And that was definitely one that I wanted to kind of discuss a little bit more in depth. Should I just play it right now? We'll play the Hugh scene now, and we'll talk about Hugh claiming Vermithor, because I am down to talk about that right now. We can jump all over the place tonight, guys. I am cool with that.
I mean, I think it's totally up to you. I just wanted to bring up the Sarah Targaryen thing because I went right on Twitter, and I was like, right then and there, I'm like, oh shit. He's insinuating that son of Sarah Targaryen. That is so awesome. And I found out George gave permission for them to do that. So I was interesting. That's very interesting though, because this is something really good reveal. This was something like never in the books. He doesn't really mention anything of his parentage.
We know nothing about his heritage. And I mean, we don't know anything about him. We don't know anything about Ulf. Like, we know that they have some kind of Targaryen blood just based on their appearance, but we have no idea like which Targaryen line they hailed from. Yeah, so that was a great reveal, I thought, and it was a good connection to have it be Sarah of all people, considering the kind of Targaryen that Sarah was. Very promiscuous, kind of lived by her own rules. It makes perfect sense that she would have a bastard or two running around.
Well, she does. She has 3. She has 3 bastards, and all of them are unnamed. That's like fact that's written within.
Now, I wonder, do you think there's now, because Ulf the White says in this episode, he says that whole kind of spiel about him being the son of Balon. But then he says in this episode, he's not sure if all of that is true. Do you think it's possible that Ulf could be another son of Sarah?
No, I don't. Okay. I don't know what the deal is with Ulf, to be honest. I mean, I really don't know. Mystery. To be honest,
nobody knows. It's just a guess at this point.
But I'm not sure. I mean, it could be a possibility. She did have 3 bastard children, and they're all unnamed. I mean, yeah, I mean, her story is absolutely crazy, and that's where you see with Jaehaerys. Like,
great character. Yeah.
Well, with Jaehaerys, that's where you see his fault as, like we think of him as this great king and everything, but he basically just like disowned his daughter. And, obviously his wife was not trying to do that. And even to like the day he died, he wanted nothing to do with her. He literally sent her.
And even at one point, they try and bring her back into the fold, and she wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it's like crazy. I mean, well, he sent her to Oldtown to just be a silent sister, and she dipped to least.
Fuck that.
She said, "Hell no, I'm not going to be a silent sister."
No.
And just
me, a silent sister. Do you know who I am, bitch? No way.
Yeah, I just was like, I kind of was like, what? Oh my God, they're making a reference to this right now? No way. So I kind of lost it. And then his claiming was awesome. I was watching with my dad, and my dad, I really need to compile all the things I've been like putting together with him, because he has the funniest reactions. And he looks at me when he sees Vermithor, and he's like, him, the Hulk guy. He calls him like the Hulk guy. I'm like, Hugh the Hammer? He's like, yeah, that's who's going to get Vermithor. Him. I'm like, why do you say that? And he's like, well, look at him. He's a strong guy. That's a big dragon. Like his logic for things.
It does fit. Well, it does kind of make sense, especially when we see a lot of these dragons and the riders end up kind of taking on similar traits among one another. It does kind of make sense that someone like Hugh Hammer would be able to claim a dragon like Vermithor, considering that he is this big, massive guy. He's described in the books as being able to like bend freaking steel with his hand and shit. He's supposed to be a massive, strong dude. And I'm a little bummed that we're not seeing him carrying around his Warhammer, though. I do wish he had the freaking Warhammer. I'm missing that Warhammer.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll get it at some point now that he's a dragon rider. But yeah, no, this was a really good reveal. I thought it was a nice kind of callback to especially for Fire and Blood fans who really like the Targaryen lore and lineage and all of that. It was a really interesting kind of connection to make him the son of Sarah Targaryen.
Oh, I nerded the hell out. I will be the first to admit it, because I'm like a super book nerd. So I was like, oh shit. And his claiming or whatever we're saying now, the dragon choosing, I guess, claiming dragon choosing. That was the
claim Vermithor. We have seen some instances where the dragon is claiming the rider, like Sea Smoke and even a little bit with Ulf. But I would definitely say that Hugh claimed Vermithor, not the other way around. Like he stood up to the dragon.
He yelled at it.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna play the scene, because I have, in my opinion, I have a theory as to when the exact moment that Vermithor decided that Hugh might be a viable rider. I think there's an exact second where Vermithor decides, okay, this guy might be worthy. And we're gonna play that scene and talk about it right here.
That was so good. That was so Vermithor's design too. Vermithor's design,
so badass.
So like honestly, like that. I'm so torn now. It's between Caraxes and Vermithor for me for the best looking dragon. And I'm so mad because when I look at Vhagar and I look at Vermithor, I'm like, damn, why couldn't they make Vhagar look like a cool old dragon? Kind of pisses me off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely badass. The design is perfect, absolutely perfect design. But yeah, let me play this, and we will dive into the claiming of Vermithor. And of course, we did get our Silver Danes scene, but just wasn't the Silver Danes scene I think we were hoping for.
Was that supposed to be Silver Danes?
That was Silver Danes, the first Targaryen that steps up to try and claim Vermithor. That was
really.
Silver Danes.
I didn't even think that's who that was, and I felt really bad with that part. I felt very bad. That kind of wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
disappointing.
That's the actor that they cast as Silver
I'm
Danes.
disappointed about that now.
Scars. You can see the scars and everything on his face. It's the same actor.
That was sad. That wasn't funny.
No, well, I mean, I gotta say, without the help of the Dragon Keepers, they're really just getting kind of thrown into the fire. We saw with Sir Stefan, he had all the Dragon Keepers right there with him, so they were teaching him, what to do, what not to do, what movements not to make, what High Valyrian commands they should be using, and and such and so on. But these dragon seeds, they didn't have that advantage. And Rhaenyra didn't really teach them much either. She just kind of threw them into the fucking fire.
That was hilarious.
She
was basically like, you know what it is.
She's like, I've said enough. Now it's time for the dragon to speak. It's like, what? You said nothing. What do you mean you said enough? You have said absolutely nothing, lady. What are you doing? But yeah, let's play the scene and let's talk a little bit about the claiming of Vermithor.
so cool.
Such a great scene.
So
Such a great scene. Now, in my opinion, I think Hugh Hammer shows incredible bravery here, not only standing up to the dragon, but his true bravery is when he goes to sacrifice himself for this lady. I think Vermithor sensed that, and that is what kind of calms Vermithor down. Because if you look at that scene, go back and watch that scene, and you know, play it on slow-mo. When Hugh the Hammer steps up and tries to kind of flag Vermithor down and say, no, 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 me. He's sacrificing himself for this lady that he doesn't even know. In that moment, you can see the look on Vermithor's face and in his eye. He kind of instantly starts getting a little bit calmer. He starts moving over towards Hugh, still growling a little bit, still kind of hyper. But I do think that act of bravery is what kind of made Vermithor maybe a little bit more curious in Hugh. And then from there on out, it seems like Hugh just secured the bond in and of itself through the rest of his bravery, standing up to the dragon, screaming in the dragon's face, and then slowly seeing that bond start to form between Hugh and Vermithor. This was a really freaking great scene. This was definitely one of my favorite scenes of the season so far. But I do believe that that single act of bravery of Hugh, you know, attempting to sacrifice himself to save this lady, I do think that played a massive part in Vermithor allowing Hugh to claim him.
No, I agree with you. I mean, why would you want a coward for a rider? Although, in Ulf's case,
well, that's the thing. We've seen many cowards claim dragons. We've seen a lot of cowards claim, and that's why I love how it's described in the books, where, you know, George writes specifically, call it the will of the gods or call it just the caprice of dragons. It's not known, and that's why I love how the show is kind of playing into that. How they're not making it specific. How a dragon chooses their rider, how someone is able to claim a dragon. It seems like each case is different from the next. And I love how they're kind of keeping it ambiguous. They're not really diving deep into what exactly is required for the bond to take place. They're keeping it very ambiguous. And I like it that way. I prefer it that way. Some things you just don't want to know. It takes the magic away.
So it's interesting. Do you think in an aspect that if we think about the Jaehaerys, right? Do you think that Vermithor has traits of Jaehaerys in some way, and perhaps Silverwing has traits of like Queen Alysanne in some way, and that kind of plays into how they claimed or traits they would look into it? Because when you look at Silverwing and how that happened, very
Silverwing straight up playing with Ulf, like she's knocking
very
Ulf
feminine
down. Like she's playing with Ulf. Yeah, it was funny.
Like very feminine and kind of, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's me that looks at things in that manner very oddly, but
yeah, like Justin White is saying, I think Silverwing was just happy to finally see a human. She's like, oh, a human, let's play. Silverwing seemed much more docile. Not docile, but seemed much more
docile to me and more people friendly. And kind of too very kind of calming and nurturing to a cowardly character, because Ulf was like he ran.
He's a major drunk. Yeah, he's a coward on top of it. But
you know, so it was kind of like she was kind of like nurturing him and comforting him in some way with her movements. I mean, I have to do a second rewatch, which I was going to do this evening, but I'm here. So.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I need to do another rewatch myself as well.
I wouldn't want to be on here talking about this, please.
No, I'm just saying that. No, absolutely. I got a few videos I'm planning on making on this episode alone. There's some things that I really want to dive a little deeper into. So I'm going to be putting out some. Hopefully, I'm going to be putting out a lot of content this week. We shall see. One of the best scenes in the entire series, in my opinion, says Henry Bemis. Awesome. It's exactly like dominant dog breeds. They will challenge, and they will challenge, and you need to correct. Maybe there's an aspect like that to it. The whole kind of alpha mentality. Maybe you're not you when you're hungry. Yeah, maybe Vermithor just needs a Snickers. You're not you when you're hungry. Maybe that is just it. Vermithor was full and had his playtime, and that's another thing that they even kind of mentioned during the sewing as well. Because by the time some of these dragons get claimed in the books, at that point, they have already killed so many dragon seeds and eaten so many dragon seeds that maybe at that point the dragons were a little more docile because they were full and they were already sated, and maybe it made them a little bit easier to claim. And there is a precedent for that as well, considering how Nettles claims her dragon by feeding it a sheep every morning to the point where the dragon was expecting her presence every day with that sheep. So yeah, I mean, I guess maybe the way to a dragon's heart is through his stomach. Maybe.
Oh, wait. So since these were the dragons of Queen Alysanne and Jaehaerys, it does make sense that all possibly could be related to Sarah too. Think about it. Now,
Maybe.
if you want to go deep down a wormhole, just because we know here about Hugh that he's Sarah, which would be basically like they would be their grandchildren, if anything.
Yeah, and Ulf looks like he's around a similar age to Hugh. You know, they don't look crazy different in age. So maybe, yeah, maybe. Who knows?
mean, there was something very Jurassic Park-like about this scene to me for some reason.
Yes,
I don't
very
know.
Jurassic Park.
Like
it looked like a T-Rex going around just wrecking shop. Is what it looked like in some scenes.
I don't think we've ever seen a dragon devour people like that. That was like
not that much. If we have, it's certainly not that much.
Not to that level.
Yeah. Let's go through the scene a little bit chronologically, and we'll talk a little bit about it. And so of course Rhaenyra, again, you know, she doesn't really give these dragon seeds a whole lot of prep time, a whole lot of pointers and do's and don'ts. She kind of just throws them into the fire, and I get it. I mean, she's looking for worthy dragon riders, and she wants these people to kind of figure it out on their own. But it was a really great scene. We see Rhaenyra getting closer to Vermithor, kind of trying to calm him down a little bit, so these people will have a little bit better of a chance, maybe. Great shot. Love that freaking shot of Vermithor, and of course, it very much reminds, I'm sure a lot of us, of the season 1 image, the promotional material for season 1 of House of the Dragon, that very famous shot of younger Rhaenyra with Syrax directly behind her. It's almost an exact replica of that shot, and I have to imagine that is not by mistake. But here is Silver Daenerys, our first look at Silver Daenerys. And if nothing else, I will at least say this for Silver Daenerys. He was the first one to step up and raise his hand. When Rhaenyra says who's going to go first, nobody wanted to step up. But Silver Daenerys was like, fuck it, I'm going. I'm giving it a shot. So I got to give it to him. He was brave. He was brave. He was the bravest among them at that moment, at least.
I felt so bad for him. I literally felt bad for him. You see this poor disfigured man that probably has been shit on and tortured his whole life. And he basically is thinking, like, if I claim this dragon, this is going to change my life. This is going to be like the come up for me. I'm going to be never looked down upon ever again. And then he's destroyed. I was like, whoa. Like, people are going to people are going to die in the scene and get burnt to shit and everything. But I mean, they really had to use this poor disfigured guy first. I didn't even think that was Silver Daenerys.
Well, I mean, when you see the shot of the actor, when they announced the casting of the actor, Silver Daenerys, I mean, he doesn't have the wig on. He's got like almost a buzz cut. So he looks way different. So I think a lot of people didn't recognize him. The only reason why I even recognized him was just for the scar. I remember seeing that scar in his headshot when that photo first started circulating, when they found out Silver Daenerys was cast. He had a very distinct scar on his face, and he has that same scar here on the show. He's got that same so as soon as I saw that scar, I was like, holy shit, it's Silver Daenerys, because he looks a little bit different with the long hair for sure. But I love the shots of Vermithor. I feel like the CGI was pretty good in this episode, especially considering some of the very difficult shots they had to pull off in this episode, and very low light as well, because they are down there in the Dragon Mount, so it's not very well lit. I gotta say that it really came through, as good as you could hope for. These shots of Vermithor were very crisp and clear. It looked very nice. You could see what was going on. At no point could I not tell what was going on, because it was too kind of dark and chaotic, like episode 3 of the final season of Game of Thrones.
Didn't have to turn your TV all the way
up.
I didn't
have to change my TV settings. Yeah, that's such a cop out. Oh my god! When they put that excuse out, my jaw literally hit the floor. But no, it was good. It was good. I thought, you could tell what was going on. The shots of Vermithor were phenomenal. Like seeing just how massive and how powerful this ancient beast is. This was fun. One thing I did have a question though is this scene. I saw a lot of people talking about this in our Discord the other night. This was very surprising. We see Rhaenyra's guards not letting the dragon seeds leave. They're trying to leave. They want nothing to do with this, and they're holding them back. Even though the whole thing that this was started, even though the whole reason that this started was voluntarily, that Rhaenyra was bringing these dragon seeds here so they could volunteer to try and claim a dragon. No one was here by force. No one was supposed to be kept here. So I thought this was very interesting. And you see a bunch of the dragon seeds trying to leave, and Rhaenyra's guards are like, nope, you're staying. I was like, holy shit, that's pretty savage.
She was getting her rider one way or another.
I
That's it.
I guess so.
That's kind of like well, they did call her Maegor with teats.
Maegor with teats.
Yeah. And this would be very Maegor the Cruelish if you think about it, with what he did to people at the Red Keep. It's like
episode 2 I believe was titled Rhaenyra the Cruel. So yeah, she's been dubbed, and it was just interesting. It was very interesting to see the guards holding the dragon seeds back like that. I definitely did not expect to see that. Rhaenyra should have let them leave if they wanted to. Rhaenyra the Cruel, says Ando. It was awesome seeing into the dragon caves, very Bilbo and Smaug. It did have a little bit of that kind of Bilbo Smaug feel to it. I 100% agree with you, Jess. That's kind of almost exactly what I thought of too, especially when you see the shots of Hugh down there when he's in the bottom of the Dragon Mount and he's kind of sneaking around. It totally brought back some Bilbo and Smaug vibes from the cave for sure. But yeah, this was a really, really great scene. Really, and I love the interiors of the Dragon Mount. That's one thing I've been really impressed with in season 2. They've been showing us some very beautiful shots of the interior of this Dragon Mount, and you really get a sense of just how big the Dragon Mount really is, because it's huge. It's absolutely huge. It's big enough to house multiple dragons with multiple different smoking vents that lead who knows where. So yeah, very kind of Desolation of Smaug-esque for sure.
Well, I've been thinking maybe that she kept them there because she doesn't need people to basically think that if they're a bastard or if they're, whatever the case with the bloodline, that they can try to get a dragon. So it's like kind of like you're there, you now know to some degree, so you're not making it out alive.
Maybe
because we don't want people to affect our dragons or take our dragons.
That could be part of it. I always just figured it's because it's just a little bit closer to their natural habitat, being inside a volcano and all that. Dragons like the heat, they like the smoking vents and stuff like that. I just thought it was maybe more environmental.
Oh no! I was talking about the dragon guards. Sorry, I was thinking
the dragons. Okay,
the dragon guards. Gotcha. No, I know why the dragons are there. But the dragon guards, I think it's because enough information was given out to people. So it's kind of like when you think of Maegor the Cruel, having people build things in the Red Keep and everything, and then he killed them all off because he didn't want people to know the secrets of it. It's kind of like Rhaenyra is doing that with these proclaimed bastards. So it's like, think about it. So if people know that you don't have to be like a pure Targaryen or how they appear to be, or royal exactly Targaryen to get a dragon,
exactly what Jace is afraid of.
So if you think about that, that means that anyone could possibly think that they could take one of these dragon's son, so that's possibly why they were stuck in there, doomed to their death. You came here. So there's always a catch. You voluntarily came there, but no one said that you could voluntarily leave. It wasn't in the deal.
It's the Hotel California. Yeah. You can check out, but you can never leave. You can check out, but you can never.
You're going to die anyways. You might as well have a death by dragon, I guess. How you going to look at it?
Yeah. Let's see what you guys are saying. Bravery wasn't enough. He was already pissed. He didn't smell a strong will besides Rhaenyra's until Ulf stood up to him. In terms of Ulf's claiming, I don't know if Ulf's claiming was bravery. They talk about Ulf's claiming a little bit in the behind the scenes, and Ryan Condal kind of attributes Ulf's claiming to a little bit more of Silverwing recognizing that Ulf submitted to him. It was the act of Ulf submitting to Silverwing that ultimately kind of won Silverwing over. At least that's how kind of Ryan Condal was explaining it in the behind the scenes features. So I definitely think Ulf's, yeah, you got to watch those. There's a lot of insights in those for every episode. So I do think Ulf's claiming was definitely a little bit more based on him kind of just, surrendering himself. And we do see him. You see him kind of just completely surrendering himself to Silverwing, preparing to die. That is kind of what helps him win the dragon over. But when it comes to Hugh, it was the bravery. I 100% believe it was definitely the bravery. We see him selflessly get up to try and almost sacrifice himself for that girl, and I think Vermithor recognized that. I think the bravery is ultimately what won Vermithor over to Hugh's side. And that's what's pretty interesting about the whole dragon bond and the whole dragon claiming. It does seem like each case is wildly different. I mean, we look at Adam of Hull, and when he was getting claimed by Sea Smoke, Adam was just incredibly afraid, but he was in a similar position as Ulf was in terms of he was kind of, just at the dragon's will at that point, at the dragon's mercy. So again, I like how they're leaving it a little bit ambiguous in terms of what exactly causes these dragons to choose their riders. We can really only speculate, I guess, at this point, but I do think Hugh's bravery definitely had something to do with it. I think Vermithor recognized the bravery in Hugh. Maegor with teats unlocked. Yes. If nobody can leave, if nobody can leave, nobody can tell what happened there. And yeah, maybe you guys are right. Maybe it's a little similar to the whole Maegor Red Keep thing. Maybe. She did keep them there so that no rumors could get out to prevent another gathering if necessary. Maybe. Yeah, maybe that was it. Maybe that was it. That's kind of that's why she kind of deserved what Joffrey from Game of Thrones mentioned. Oof. Yeah, and that's funny. I mean, it is kind of crazy that Joffrey from Game of Thrones already completely detailed everything that happens in the Dance of the Dragons in that series. So yeah, technically we already really know how this story is going to end, whether you've read Fire and Blood or whether you remember that scene from Game of Thrones. Yeah, it seems like we know where this story is heading. Let's see what else we got. How did no one on the Green Council know about this? Did Larys keep this to himself to sabotage Aemond? And I was wondering that myself as well, Ando, because we see in this episode, Rhaenyra sends word into King's Landing to her handmaiden Delinda, to set this whole thing up so they can find some more dragon seeds. And we see it starts at Dragonstone, where Alan of Hull comes to Massaria, receives a message from Massaria. Alan of Hull takes that message to their King's Landing contact. The King's Landing contact smuggles that message into King's Landing inside this fish thing here, this bucket of fish, and it eventually makes its way to Delinda. So this is a message that is changing a lot of hands. They had to go through a lot of different people to get to Delinda. And then after Delinda gets the message, she has to kind of quietly spread the word around King's Landing and around Flea Bottom that she's specifically looking for Targaryen bastards. And Larys, being who Larys is, I mean, he does seem like he is the type of character that would have multiple spies all over the place. So yes, I thought it was a little bit strange that Larys wasn't made aware that Rhaenyra had a handmaiden in here that was secretly recruiting dragon seeds, Targaryen bastards. I'm very surprised Larys didn't find out about this. Or, like you said, maybe he did find out about it and just didn't want to say anything. We do get that scene between Larys and Lord Jasper in this episode as well, where Lord Jasper is asking Larys for his advice after Jasper hears the rumor about Sea Smoke potentially being claimed. And Larys kind of specifically doesn't even want to give that information to Aemond. It seems like a lot of them are afraid of Aemond a little bit, and rightfully so. He's a little bit of a whack job, capable of anything. And I did love that scene between Larys and Jasper, because if we look down at the courtyard, we can see Aemond expelling the lickspittles, as he calls them, as he fires the members of the Kingsguard that Aegon hired, Aegon's friends, and he sends them to the wall. That was great. That was absolutely great. But yeah, it was an interesting scene. It seems like Larry's did not want Aegon to find out about the potential sea smoke rumors. So yeah, I definitely noticed that as well. Ando, when I was watching the episode, how did Larry's not find out that there was someone in King's Landing recruiting dragon seeds? It seems like that would be something he would find out about. But alas, he didn't. But alas, he did not. Let's see what else we got. Rhaenyra couldn't let them leave. They would return home and they had info. It's the same with the Dragon Keepers. She can't let them leave. The only place they can go to is King's Landing. And yeah, maybe it was an information thing. She just didn't want the information to get out. At least she would probably not want the information to get out until the riders were claimed. Once the dragons are actually claimed, then it seems like that's a different story, because at the end of the episode we see once they are claimed, Rhaenyra is right out there in full force, right on Dragonstone, staring Aemon down, and Aemon turns his ass around because he knows he's freaking outgunned and outnumbered. And even in the behind the scenes thing, they kind of wanted that scene to portray, at least for us, the audience, one of the first times since early season 1 that we've actually seen Aemon afraid. Because he was afraid in that scene. We see him taking Vhagar, heading towards Dragonstone, and all of a sudden he sees Syrax, he sees Silverwing, he sees Vermithor in the distance, and it scares him. At least that's how they described it in the behind the scenes video. But yeah, interesting stuff. But yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe maybe Rhaenyra just didn't want the information to get out. That's definitely a possibility.
That's definitely what I believe. I think that's probably
makes sense.
Like the most logical reasoning, because you got to think to the nature of people. So at some point, someone's going to leave off a Dragonstone with their dragon and they're going to go to sleep someplace.
Yeah.
Someone can try to slit their throat. I mean, the Starks thought about doing it to Aegon the Conqueror.
That's right.
And his sisters. They thought about sneaking in and sneaking past the dragons
or the riders. Yeah.
Just killing everybody, So, I mean, it's, then the dragon will be out there for free, pretty much.
Yeah. Dragons and riders' personalities mimic one another. And yeah, it does seem like they do kind of take on the traits and the personalities of each other. Like, we look at how similar Daemon and Caraxes are. Yes, I definitely think there's an aspect to that, especially considering how long the bond was established for. Like you mentioned earlier, Kayla, Vermithor and Jaehaerys were bonded to each other for so long, decades of a bond that just got stronger and stronger. So yes, if anyone is going to take on the kind of traits of King Jaehaerys, it's definitely Vermithor. I think that makes perfect sense. So yeah, I definitely think there is an aspect of that the longer the bond takes place, it seems like that dragon and the person share similar traits. And again, just look at Daemon and Caraxes, how similar those two are. Every dragon is different. It seems Vermithor has very high standards, higher than freaking Silverwings at least. And that's again. It's one of those things that it's kind of fun when the show leaves things a little bit ambiguous like this, because we can have these fun discussions in terms of what are the deciding factors that a dragon chooses their rider? What is the deciding factor? What do they look for? Is it the blood? Is it something they sense? Is it their personality? It's fun that they have left it a little bit ambiguous, because we get to have these kinds of discussions. Absolutely. I totally agree, right down to Hotel California. Hey, you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave, unfortunately. You can never leave.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think you guys are right. I definitely think you guys are right. I think that it makes the most sense as to why the guards would keep them in there. Yep, she's starting to turn even. Her costume reflects it low key. Yeah. Ooh, interesting. Yeah, she does have an interesting costume, Rhaenyra. And I wonder if we're going to see her costumes start to kind of reflect that change. If that change does come on the show, which I'm expecting it will, I do expect them to kind of follow a similar arc for Rhaenyra that the book laid out. So I wonder if we're going to see that kind of continue throughout the show. If we start to see, as she is descending a little bit more and more into paranoia, if we start to see her wardrobe kind of change a little bit along with it. That's an interesting observation, April. Very interesting observation. The Dragons choose their riders easily because it's the fact that they don't have much time left in the season with our episodes. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it's written. That's the way it's written, right? That's I can't argue with that. Cannot argue with that. The barmaids knew about this, so I'm sure Larry's heard about it. Yeah, exactly. They're right there in the bar. Everybody's talking about it. They're cheering about Ulf the White becoming the next dragon rider. You mean to tell me Larry's didn't have a freaking spy in that barn that didn't inform him about all of this going down? Yeah, it's a little sus. It's a little sus that Larry's didn't figure out about this whole dragon seed plot.
He wanted Aemon to be humbled. That's what he
Maybe.
wanted. He wanted
Maybe.
Aemon to be humbled.
Well, he doesn't
and
seem like he's on Aemon's side. I mean, it
he's
seems like
not.
he's secretly working. We see him kind of secretly working with Maester Orwyle to hopefully get Aegon, healed quicker. And
He can't control
so, yeah.
Aemon.
No,
We know that
yeah,
Aemon
not at all.
saw through his BS.
Yeah.
Aegon, on the other hand,
He's got Aegon around his finger, though. Yeah,
Yes.
he's able to manipulate Aegon much easier, for sure, 100%. Yeah, Larry's always playing games. He is. Larry's always playing games.
speaking of this scene, I thought it was great how we see our boy Viserys again, and
Yeah.
we showed him in his final deterioration state.
You know what's
right?
even better about
And
that?
then, oh my God, there was so much about that scene. That scene was phenomenal.
That was one of my favorite scenes, and I actually have that
It was-
scene loaded up here. We can talk about that scene next. Hell yes.
It was his
But what I
idea
love about-
too.
That's exactly what I love about this scene. Apparently, when they were originally going to film that scene, they were going to have Viserys look exactly how he appeared to him in the previous episode, regular old Viserys. But Patty
Mhm.
Constantine came up with the idea to put Viserys in the decrepit form, and it makes that scene 10 times better. And I brought this up in my review. I feel like if it's little things like that that really point to just how well and how deep of an understanding that Patty Constantine has for the character of King Viserys. Patty really understands this character. He really knows who this character is. So for him to suggest that, it just shows a great understanding and knowledge for the character you're playing, and knowing that kind of visual will have a much more profound impact on not only Daemon, but the audience as well. So, I mean, I got to just tip my hat to Patty Constantine again. The guy just continues to prove that he is the absolute GOAT.
I miss him so much.
I
I miss him so much.
I miss
The
him
season is
so
not
much.
the same without him.
It's really not, man. It's not the same without good old Patty. But yeah, let's play this Patty Constantine scene, and we will talk a little bit about that. And of course, we will also talk a little bit about Daemon trying to win over the Riverlords as well, because it looks like I was right. It looks like I was right in my prediction. But we'll talk a little bit about that in a second.
I never wanted it. I was right not to. It crushes whoever wears it. You always wanted it, Daemon. Do you want it still?
So good to see Patty Constantine again. And, I mean, I've certainly made it known that these Daemon DMT trip Harrenhal scenes, I was enjoying them at the beginning, but I do feel like they have been dragging on a little bit too long now. They have been feeling a little bit repetitive. But I will at least admit, in this episode, we finally got some decent kind of payoff for these weird Harrenhal trippy scenes where Daemon is finally coming to the realization that not only was he faced with the fact that he had to face all of his sins and some of his past misdeeds, but he's finally coming to the realization that his quest for the throne, his quest for this crown, has been folly. It has led to so much ruin. Where Daemon might think he wants the crown, Viserys is letting him know here in this instant, you might think you want this crown, but I promise you, you don't. The weight of this crown is more than you can bear. It crushes everyone beneath it. And I think Daemon is finally coming to that realization that maybe his quest for this throne hasn't been the best use of his time. I think Daemon's finally realizing that maybe he doesn't want to be king.
Well, I think there is a tone of self-sacrifice for the crown, and you see it with the symbolism of the black goat being there. So notice they zoom in on that black goat, and that's very symbolic of the sacrifice, right? And I think this whole scene sticks very nicely with the saying pretty much that any man who must say that I am a king is no true king in an aspect. Pretty much like only those who have pretty much, what is it, like no desire to rule are the most fit to do so, seems to be the theme that they're tying from like Game of Thrones into House of the Dragon here as well. And it's all about sacrifice here. So that's like the tones that I got with this. This scene was just so beautiful. It was just phenomenal. You pretty much said everything like right there, but
no, you did too.
But I'm pretty much just adding in the sacrifice part. Because
and I do agree.
I'm just so glad to see him back and see him in this state.
Any excuse to see Paddy Constantine back, I'm all for. I mean, maybe it's just my bias because I'm a huge fan of Paddy, but yeah, any excuse to throw Paddy into the script, I am all for it.
And it's
but no, I think
the transition to Aegon afterwards too, because in the aspect of how like Aegon is now looking like Viserys, and it's like mirroring the relationship that they have with Aegon and Aemond as Daemon in ways.
Yeah, and we were actually talking a little bit about that in the Discord last night as well, in terms of Aegon really kind of, you look at what happened to Aegon, it's very similar to what happened to Viserys. And we were wondering, do you think at some point we might see Aegon wear a mask like Viserys wore?
I wonder if they will do that.
To cover his side of it, to cover the messed up side of his face, which is pretty interesting that it's the very opposite side of Viserys. Viserys has his, messed upness on the right side of his face, but with Aegon, it's the left side. So it creates a very kind of interesting yin and yang thing. There's symmetry there there's symmetry to their images.
A mirror image.
They mirror
each other. Exactly. Yeah, mirroring.
Do you think and let me know in the chat as well, guys. What do you guys think in the chat? Do you think we might see Aegon wearing a similar mask that Viserys wore at the end of his life to cover up his scars? And it looks like Aegon is even missing an eye potentially. Like one of those eyes looks to be gone. So yeah, what do you guys think in the chat? You think we might see Aegon wearing a mask at some point? But yeah, again, like you said, any excuse to see Paddy Constantine, I am just absolutely down for. And yeah, as Rip the Dodo Bird says, crushes whoever wears it. Look at Viserys and Aegon and so many other corrupted because of it. Love this scene so much. And that really is the kind of message right there in a nutshell, isn't it? That, and we even see Alice Rivers kind of have a really good piece of advice for Daemon in the previous episode in terms of the crown isn't some prize to be won. It's a burden to bear. Those who seek it are usually those that are least suited to wear it. And again, we're seeing a very similar message that Viserys is giving to Daemon in this episode as well. And yeah, it's just beautiful scene. And I do really think that Daemon is finally actually being receptive to what people are trying to tell him, to call it fate, whatever's giving him these hallucinations, these visions. It does seem like in this episode, Daemon might finally be waking up to what these visions were trying to convey to him in terms of his quest for the crown. But yeah, it was just great scene. Absolutely great scene. And yeah, Jess, he does seem so fun behind the scenes. Anyone who watches the behind the scenes videos, especially the one for last week's episode when Viserys first makes a cameo, absolutely all of the little behind the scenes stuff that Paddy Constantine does, the dude just looks like he is so much fun to hang around with. He's just absolute blast it must be to be on set with him. Again, like this is a show like this, you wouldn't even have to pay me to work on a show like this. I would work on a show like this for friggin' free, just for the experience. It seems like this is a dream job for someone like Paddy or Matt Smith, I imagine. But yeah, he looks like he's a lot of fun. Looks like he is a lot of fun on screen. And yeah, no one says lickspittle's quite like good old Patty, right? And I love that they're throwing in the lickspittle word ever so often, because that's a huge, huge favorite word of George. George, the word lickspittle is in Fire and Blood multiple times. He loves that word. And it's fun. It's a fun word. It is a fun word. I love the fact that it was Patty's idea to bring back the costume. Yeah, again, and that's what makes the scene that much better. Like you were bringing up earlier, Kayla, I love it even more that it was Patty's idea to put on the decrepit costume and not just appear like the regular King Viserys. I think it just makes this scene 10 times more powerful. Again, not only for Daemon seeing Viserys in that position, Daemon is literally seeing what the crown cost Viserys in this moment. He's seeing the physical cost. And we, as the audience, get to see the physical cost as well. So yeah, again, I got to tip my hat off to Paddy Constantine for him to come up with that idea to do this scene in the decrepit makeup. It was just, again, it just really shows a really good fundamental knowledge for the character that you're playing. Paddy Constantine really understands the character of the series. And I feel like that was even proven in season 1. And I know, Kayla, you and I talked a little bit about this as well. And I know we talked about this with the chat before as well. This isn't the first time Paddy Constantine has contributed something like this to House of the Dragon in terms of coming up with a very sick idea that works very well. When we look back at season 1 and episode 8, when the crown falls off of Viserys' head during his triumphant entrance into the throne room, when Paddy Constantine, when Viserys eventually gets to the steps and he starts walking up them and the crown falls off of his head, that wasn't really originally supposed to happen. That was not in the script. The crown wasn't supposed to fall off of his head. It fell off of his head by accident. Yet Matt Smith and Paddy Constantine saw a beautiful opportunity to have a really good scene when they saw that crown fall off of Paddy's head. So again, it just shows a really deep and great understanding that both Matt and Paddy have for the characters that they're playing. For them to have the wherewithal to know to keep, to stay in character, to pick up, for Matt to come up behind Paddy, pick up that crown, help him up the steps. I mean, the fact that most of that was improv, it just speaks volumes to how well they understand the characters that they're playing.
He's so phenomenal. And I mean, I think what he's really hitting home on is Viserys never really planned on being king. It was kind of a set of circumstances that were really tumultuous in nature that kind of end up leading to him being elected as king, you can say. And he pretty much
the tragedy that happens to all of Jaehaerys' other heirs. Like, this was Viserys never thought this was going to be his role. He never thought he was going to come into the crown.
He took that on to pretty much bring stability or maintain the stability that was created for the realm. So it wasn't anything, he didn't necessarily want it. He was just put in that position in an aspect, and he accepted it. And that's probably also why Viserys never made Daemon his heir, because he knew it would be probably maybe it would cause instability to the realm, he felt in an aspect,
Maybe. But yeah, again, any excuse to bring Paddy Constantine back, I am always going to be in favor for. But I love scenes like this that are kind of improv, that are kind of made up on the fly, and especially scenes like this that come directly from the actor. Again, it's very impressive to see how much he really understands this character that he's playing. The real Paddy, the baddie, hell yes. Real Paddy, the baddie.
Paddy the baddie, I love that.
I like it. Rider of Blackfire, Rider of Balerion, wielder of Blackfire. Hell yeah.
Which
the highest awards for Paddy, my respects. Absolutely. I mean, he may have gotten snubbed during award season, but Paddy very much is the people's champion among the House of the Dragon fandom. It seems like most of us really, really like Paddy. And rightfully so. The guy he's been so great. He's been awesome.
Was Aemon walking around with Blackfire?
When he goes to see, I think he has it in hand when he goes to see Aegon at one point.
Did he? All right, because I thought I was tripping out for a second. I don't know why. When I saw that Blackfire comment, I just thought of Aemon walking around with it. Like, what the hell? Sorry, random. My random
No, it's
brain.
fun. Ando says, I can't wait for Aegon to get better. I can't either. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the dynamic is going to be. Like, what role is Aegon going to play until we get to that very fateful scene at the end of the series? Because when you look at Fire and Blood, after the Battle of Rook's Rest, there's not a whole lot known that happens to Aegon. He kind of just disappears from the Red Keep, and he isn't really a part of the story for a while until we get to that Dragonstone scene a little bit later on. So I wonder how House of the Dragon is going to choose to kind of fill those gaps. What role, what story are they going to give Aegon in season 3? That is one thing I really want to see. Like, where are they going to go with his character? They really have a pretty wide open canvas for Aegon's character in terms of there not being a lot of source material until the very end of the story for his character. So I am really looking forward to seeing what they are going to do with Aegon. How are they going to kind of fill in those gaps that are non-existent in Fire and Blood?
I mean, can we get him tripping out on Milk of the Poppy and possibly talking to Viserys? I mean, I'll be about that, you know. More Patty Constantine.
Yeah, more Patty is always a good choice. Aegon is getting a mask. I predict it 100%. Yeah, I think he might. I think he might. Bill Bird says, I hope he gets a mask. That would be cool. Sci-Fi also says yes, he's going to get a mask. Vic says yes, he is going to get a mask. The playback room says yes, absolutely, from Delilah as well. So yeah, it seems like a lot of people are anticipating that Aegon might get a mask. Greek Girl also, without a doubt. Yes, says Justin White. Hell yes. It's obvious he better get the other side. Yeah, again, it just really does create a very kind of a nice symmetry to their wounds, a very yin and yang thing with it happening on Viserys' right side and Aegon's left. But super similar wounds in terms of the portion of their faces that are damaged, in terms of the eye and the lower cheek, almost the exact same spot that these wounds are in. Only they're two very different wounds. But yeah, it seems like a lot of you want to see the Aegon mask. I hope so too. I really want to see the Aegon mask. And yes, as Sci-Fi Fantasy World brings up, both sons have lost an eye now. This is true. Both sons have lost an eye now. Yeah. Aegon will need a mask for future public appearances. And that's the thing. I mean, he is technically still the king, even though Aemon is the Prince Regent right now and is running things. Aegon is still the king. And if Aegon does recover fully, he is going to want to take up his duties again. And yes, I mean, you think he's going to be able to sit in, on the Iron Throne and hold court with that nasty face like that? Yeah, he'll get a mask, I think. I think you guys are right. And we got a $5 super chat from Brian Holiday. Wow, thank you so much, Brian, for the $5. Would Blackwoods refuse to support the Blacks because of Willam Blackwood's execution? And that is an awesome segue into this next scene. Hell yes. Because we do see a culmination of Daemon's quest to win the Riverlords to his side in episode 7. And I saw a lot of people praising the performance of young Oscar Tully, and I'm right there with you guys. He was great in this episode. This kid was great, absolutely great in this episode. I think he's going to be a great actor when he grows up. He's already a great actor. So I was really impressed with young Oscar Tully in this episode. He kind of stood up for the Riverlands and kind of took charge, and he laid it down. So yeah, this was a very interesting scene. But will the Blackwoods refuse to support the Blacks because of Willam's execution? I mean, it's possible. We have seen stuff like that happen in the past. If we look at Game of Thrones, when Robb Stark famously beheads the Karstarks, Rickard Karstark, the rest of the Karstark host completely abandons Robb Stark. So we have seen a precedent of this in the past. So it's possible that the Blackwoods could potentially abandon him, but all of the houses that Daemon has won to his side, it's a trade that I'm sure Daemon would gladly make. And I actually brought this up in one of my previous videos because I had a feeling that Daemon was going to have to take the head of Willam Blackwood. It seems like they were setting this up it was pretty clear to see anyway. After Daemon sends Willam Blackwood into the lands of House Bracken to quote-unquote do your worst, Daemon specifically says to Willam, the crown cannot be seen doing such things. And yet Sir Willam chose to fly the Targaryen banner into Bracken lands anyway. So at some point, I had a feeling the Piper was going to come. The chickens were going to come home to roost, as they say, for Willam Blackwood. It's just how they do things, especially when it comes to the Riverlords, and we hear them talk about it, how they respect the old ways and the new gods. they were going to need justice. There was no way that the Riverlords were going to support Daemon without some kind of justice being levied out. So I had a feeling this was going to be coming. I knew Daemon was going to have to take the head of Willam. It just makes sense in terms of winning the Riverlords to your side. But in terms of House Blackwood, could they abandon Daemon because of this? It's possible. It is possible. But all of the houses that Daemon has won as a result, again, I think it's a trade that he would gladly make. Trade House Blackwood, and in return, you get House Tully, House Mootton, House Dustin. You got all of these other big houses in the Riverlands that are now on the side of Daemon. So yeah, it's a trade that I'm sure he wouldn't mind making. But what did you think about this scene, Kayla, in terms of seeing an Oscar Tully kind of take the reins and seeing Daemon have to kind of make up for his mistake and kind of setting William Blackwood, the way he did?
So I actually was kind of torn if this was a dream sequence or not. And the only reason why I say that is because when he went to cut off his head, we saw no blood splatter.
Ooh, interesting.
We saw no blood splatter. And with the way that that was shot, there would definitely be some kind of blood splatter.
Okay.
So, I mean, I like I said, I have to do another rewatch, but they show it here. He's cutting. There's no blood coming up on Daemon's face or anything. I mean,
okay.
So I wasn't sure if he was still kind of tripping out or what was going on. Yeah, so I'm not sure, but I did really enjoy this scene, and it was funny to see Daemon be put in his place in an aspect and kind of like, you need to play along.
Well, I mean, at this point, Daemon knows, he knows he knows he has a mistake that he has to make up for.
He's like swallowing his pride too.
He's not obviously he's not appreciating, little Oscar getting a little, get a little snippy with him. But if you look at the difference, I mean, it's again, Daemon messed up. Daemon had to make up for that mess up. So this is just how it kind of had to happen. But no, I thought Oscar Tully handled it as well as he possibly could have. Throws a little bit of shade at Daemon, of course, and Daemon, I wouldn't have been too surprised if Daemon would have got a little bit more angry. But I think at the end of the day, Daemon knew what was at stake here. He knew that he needs this army. He needs to do whatever it takes to win the Riverlords to his side. And if that means swallowing a little bit of his pride for a half a second, I think that's what we saw Daemon do in this scene, because he knows the stakes. He knows how important this is.
It had like heavy Lyanna Mormont vibes for me, at least. It kind of was reminiscent to me of that for some reason in Game of Thrones. Yeah, I don't know why. Also, too, the weirwood tree, I didn't know it had George's face on it until earlier today, and I thought that was such a cool fact. Yeah,
that's awesome.
This morning I was reading about that, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I enjoyed this scene. So I thought this was great. That young actor is phenomenal. He's a phenomenal young actor.
He was good. I was very impressed with Oscar Tully. Yeah, Oscar is a tactician, as Doc Hay says. Yeah, a little bit of a tactician. And yeah, Blackwood played himself at the end of the day. That's very true. This Blackwood really has nobody. Willam has really nobody to blame but himself. Daemon told him clear as day the crown cannot be seen to do these things, and he stupidly flew that Targaryen banner into Brackenlands anyway and committed some atrocious acts. So yeah. He played himself. Absolutely sci-fi. He did this to himself. He absolutely did this to himself. Wonder what they are going to do with the Song of Ice and Fire with the White Walkers. Yeah, I've always wondered where they're going with that storyline as well. We do see them kind of introduce that pretty early on in season 1 in terms of Aegon the Conqueror potentially invading the Seven Kingdoms, at least in the show canon. We know show canon and book canon are two different things, but I do think this could end up being true in book canon as well, because it seems like this idea did come from George. George did an interview back in 2018, and he did drop a few hints in terms of maybe there was another reason that Aegon invaded the Seven Kingdoms. Maybe he wasn't invading just for conquest. So George has been teasing an idea like this for years now. So I do think this idea did come from George, or at the very least was inspired by George, maybe even by that interview. But yes, ever since they have introduced this whole Song of Ice and Fire prophecy on the show, I've been wondering where is it going to lead to. Now, obviously, it seems like the main purpose of the prophecy of Ice and Fire is to kind of connect these two shows, connect House of the Dragon to Game of Thrones. That is something they wanted to do very clearly, that they wanted everyone to know that these two shows are of a same continuity. So I do think part of it is that they just wanted to connect House of the Dragon to Game of Thrones. But in terms of narratively, what exactly are they going to do story-wise with the whole prophecy of Ice and Fire? And again, I've been wondering this just as much as everybody else. I really am not quite sure. I was really hoping we were going to get a mention of it when Jace went to go see Cregan. We hear about the whole pact of Ice and Fire that Jace and Cregan signed in the books in terms of the marriage proposal and the agreement for House Stark to support Rhaenyra. But one thing with Jace being Rhaenyra's heir, I was hoping that maybe Rhaenyra would have filled Jace in on the prophecy a little bit earlier, but they reveal in a few episodes after the Cregan meeting that Jace didn't even know about the prophecy. Rhaenyra tells him in episode 3 or 4, I believe. So I was really hoping that that could have been something that Rhaenyra told Jace much earlier, because, I mean, it would have made sense at the very least, because that is something that is a secret that is passed down from king to heir, or in this case, from queen to heir. And with Jace being Rhaenyra's direct heir, I thought that would have been something Rhaenyra filled him in on way earlier. But alas, she didn't. But I was really hoping that was going to play some kind of part in terms of the meeting between Jace and Cregan. Cregan being from the north, knowing the history of the North, probably knowing that the threat of the White Walkers, or at least being from the North, he's probably more inclined to believe some kind of doomed prophecy about this winter that will never end. Someone like Cregan Stark is definitely a character that would probably be a little bit more inclined to listen to something like that. So I thought it could have been a really, really good, really nice way to kind of bring those two houses together for Jace to kind of inform Cregan about the prophecy of Ice and Fire, even though that's technically forbidden, even though it's supposed to stay from king to heir. And just for the purposes of securing this very important alliance with the North, and especially considering the North is the first line of defense. If this vision turns out to be true, if this dream from Aegon turns out to be true, then the North is the first people you're going to want to tell about this dream. They are the first line of defense. So prepping Cregan for this Song of Ice and Fire, I think it could have been a very interesting way that they could have weaved that into the narrative a little bit by having Jace let Cregan know about this prophecy, and in turn, that kind of just strengthening the bond between Jace and Cregan that much more, which is another thing we didn't really get on the show. They didn't even really establish their friendship. They kind of just felt like they were acquaintances. It certainly didn't seem like they were friends. So yeah, but in terms of what they're going to do with the prophecy of A Song of Ice and Fire on the show, is it going to play a major part at some point? I'm not really expecting it to. I'm expecting that to be a little bit more of a background thing that they maybe refer to every once in a while. But who knows? Maybe it'll come a little bit more into the forefront. But let me know what you guys think in the chat. And you, Kayla, as well. What do you think they're going to do with the prophecy of Ice and Fire that they have introduced into the show? Do you think it'll play a major part in the narrative? Or do you think it's going to be more of a background thing?
So eventually it's going to get lost. That's what I believe. It's either going to get lost. It's going to get lost completely because we know Daenerys knows nothing about it. Viserys knew nothing about it. I believe probably it was lost for a time being. And then I think it was Ares. Was it the first Ares I'm thinking of? First of his name. Or perhaps it was it was probably lost here, then found again. I'm trying to think of the order of kings. Was it Ares or why can't I think of the king that burned all the books right now? He burned all of the books. Was it Baelor? Baelor, am I thinking of? Baelor Targaryen. Baelor the Beloved. Is that who I'm thinking of right now?
Geez, I was on mute this whole time.
No. Baelor that's what it is. Baelor the Blessed, right? Sorry, so we know that he ended up burning like a ton of books and everything. So it was either lost at some point, around that time when he was burning stuff, or
it could even get lost,
or with
Rhaenyra.
Aegon, with
Rhaenyra
I think,
Rhaenyra might be the last one to know about it. Well, I mean, because when we know what happens with Rhaenyra and Jace, but Aegon the Third is incredibly young on the show.
Yeah,
So
he would be like
show
10
canon wise, I think this prophecy could die right there with Rhaenyra. I don't think it'll survive past Rhaenyra.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I think she might be the last one to know about it, because who is she going to pass it on to? There's really no one to pass it on to. Aegon's just too young, and we know what happens to later on the show. Or what hopefully is going to happen on the show. But no, in terms of the on the show, do you think it's going to play some kind of narrative on the show, or do you think it's just going to be a background thing?
No, I think it's a background thing. I think that it's already answered with the Game of Thrones series, and that this is tying in with the Game of Thrones series. That's why we have the cat's paw dagger back making an appearance, and with the carving in it. So all of that stuff, they're using this to tie in to answer things within the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones for continuity purposes. That's what I truly believe. The books, I could be here for hours on end describing my theories on that and a prophecy. And also, that would link into Azor Ahai and a whole bunch of stuff. So I can't do that. We'll be here for like 10 hours. It'll be 5 a.m. by the time I'm done.
Stream for another time.
But I think it is what it is here. Like we're seeing it. I don't think there's going to be much more to it. And I agree. I had assumed at first, and I was excited when Cregan and Jace were talking. I assumed that Jace had already known. So this kind of shows too, Rhaenyra is like in dangerous situations and everything, and waits to tell Jace until, this moment. So we're probably going to see it get lost within this series. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it to play a big overall narrative point in terms of story-wise. I think it'll be just a background thing that might be referred to every once in a while.
Yeah, because the solution's already ended in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like Game of Thrones is the end. So there's this stuff, and then it all leads into the events of Game of Thrones. So yeah. I hope that makes sense.
Cannibal the Dragon says, and I love seeing Cannibal the Dragon in the chat. It's unfortunately we didn't get to see Cannibal the Dragon on the show, but I'm holding out hope that we might see Cannibal in season 3. I wonder why the Blackwood guy didn't ask to take the black. That would have they would have to respect that.
Good
point. They don't necessarily have to respect that. Like, in order giving someone a choice of, like, when it comes to thieves, usually they get a choice of losing their hand or taking the black. But the option to take the black isn't always an option. That's just not always an option that is given. And given the severity of Willam Blackwood's crimes, I get the feeling they probably wouldn't have let him take the black. The Riverlords were demanding justice. I think anything less than his death wouldn't have won the Riverlords to his side. So I think taking the black in this, just in this specific instance, I don't think it would have worked. But I mean, it would have been worth a shot.
I think so, right?
Would have at least been worth a shot. Like, hey, let me go to the wall. I'll be good. I promise.
Let me live out my life in the cold, miserable north.
Yeah. Daemon asked him to do it. He can't. He cut his head off for not lying, like Daemon told him to lie. That is crazy, LOL. And it is a trick. Daemon needs to be careful. He is getting tricked and trapped. Again, I mean, Daemon is always used to kind of being one of the more clever guys in the room, but he does come across someone every once in a while that can kind of match him in wit. Like Alice Rivers has been doing all season. Even Sir Simon has kind of been pretty witty. So yeah, Daemon's got to be careful. Daemon has got to be careful. And yes, Rip the Dodo Bird, Cannibal the Dragon, you weren't there last night. Exactly. Cannibal there is a Trixie in play going on. Daemon is on very thin ice. He might be. Yes, I know. I was framed. You see, I didn't eat humans. Humans are friends, not food. Yeah, Cannibal only eats other dragons. And dragon eggs. But no, I was bummed that we didn't see Cannibal. I knew we probably weren't going to see Cannibal in season 2, just based off Ryan Condal stating that we were going to get 5 new dragons in season 2. And just based on where the story was heading, I had a feeling that Cannibal might be one of those dragons we might not get, or maybe won't get until season 3. But yes, I was really hoping to see Cannibal at some point, especially when we heard earlier, before the season even started, when HBO specifically announced the news that they cast a character to play Silver Danes of all people. And anyone who's read Fire and Blood, you know Silver Danes' storyline is closely tied to the wild dragons in particular, Sheep Stealer and Cannibal. So as soon as I heard the news that Silver Danes was going to be in the show, I thought, holy crap, are we going to get that insane Sheep Stealer and Cannibal scene from the book? Because, yeah, when you look at the Dragon Seed storyline in the book and the Red Sowing, as savage as it is here on the show, it seems like it's even more savage in the book in terms of all of the damage that gets done and all of the multiple dragons that are involved. So yeah, it was a little bit of a bummer that we didn't get to see Sheep Stealer, and definitely a bummer that we didn't get to see Cannibal. But hopefully, we will see both of them next season, or maybe even in the finale. Maybe not Cannibal. Maybe we'll see Sheep Stealer in the finale. But Cannibal, I'm hoping we'll see some Cannibal in season 3, because Ryan did say we will get wild dragons, plural. And when season 1 first aired, HBO Max, on their House of the Dragon website, they put out a list of all 17 dragons that they were planning on showing throughout the entirety of the show. And I actually did a video on that list a little while back. It's been one of our most viewed videos on the channel. And all 3 wild dragons were on that HBO list when that list was first put out. So it's it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if we get some wild dragons next season. I really, really hope we get a Cannibal sighting. We need to see Cannibal. And this is interesting. Was Oscar setting Daemon up from their first meeting, playing the useless boy lord to see what the prince was like? That's actually very interesting. That's actually very interesting. And I actually wouldn't be too surprised if that could have been a little bit of what he was doing. Yeah, maybe. And, you know, you have a character like Oscar who's incredibly young. Naturally, he's going to be underestimated. So, yes, if his true intention was to really find out just what kind of prince Daemon is, that would have been a very good way of going about it. Go in there, act like you're this scared kid that doesn't know anything, so you can get the true measure of what Daemon is really like. I like that idea. I like that theory. I like that. It's a good one. What do you think, Halo? You think Oscar could have been just trying to suss out who Daemon really is and not, playing the innocent green boy?
I mean, I think that would be smart to do. I think that would be very smart. That's very crafty. So that would be actually that's really cool. Actually, I think that is a really good
idea. I like that.
I do like that. That is that's very smart and crafty, and that's a good way to throw off someone that is a potential enemy or find out where they stand.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really good way to get the true measure of somebody, because when somebody underestimates you and doesn't think much of you, they're going to be more inclined to show you their true self under those kind of circumstances. So yeah, I like that. I think that's a good theory.
I agree with you. Really 100%, Jeremy.
Yeah, good stuff, Chad. Good stuff.
With Judges. I'm with her.
I mean, the chat always kills it. That's why I love doing these streams. I love getting on here and hanging out with everybody in the chat, because you guys really do come up with some of the coolest ideas and theories, and it's always fun discussing this stuff with you guys. So I really do appreciate everybody who comes by. That's why I try to highlight as many comments as possible, because I generally want to hear from all of you. I'm not going to lie, when Ulf stumbled into Silverwing's lair, I thought it was the cannibal's lair. That kind of it briefly crossed my mind for a second as well. The only thing that threw me right off of that thought is that I knew Silverwing was going to be in this episode. Had I not known Silverwing was going to be in this episode, I probably would have thought that was definitely Cannibal right away. But that thought even crossed my mind as well, because when you first get that first little glimpse of Silverwing, it's you don't get a really crisp, clear shot of it, and the lighting is very dark. The dragon almost looks black when you first see it. Then it kind of comes out into focus a little bit more, and you can see the color a little clearer. And I knew it was Silverwing, but no, I mean, that would have been awesome. Him just kind of stumbling into Cannibal's lair, and we see him actually step on the hatchling of dragon eggs. There's actually some dragon eggs that Silverwing seemingly has recently laid that Ulf the White actually steps on.
He steps on an egg and breaks it, and actually Silverwing smells his foot first.
Yes, that was funny. Silverwing goes and smells his foot. I'm surprised Silverwing didn't get a little upset that Ulf, messed with the dragon eggs. But it's again the caprice of dragons or the fate of the gods. Who knows why they choose a rider? Who knows why they choose a rider? I really want Aemon to see the prophecy on the dagger. That was one thing I really wanted to see as well, especially when we get to that when we did get to that episode of Rook's Rest. At the end, we see Aemon and he's got the dagger in his hand. I mean, I was hoping that maybe Aemon would have saw the prophecy inscribed on the dagger, because it seems like you have to actually heat the dagger up in order to read the prophecy, as we saw in season 1. And considering that Vhagar just blasted the heck out of Aegon, I was hoping that maybe the blade would have been hot enough for Aemon to read the prophecy. That would have been interesting.
Perhaps he did. And it will be unveiled to us later on down the line. I'm not sure.
Maybe he did. That's a very good point. Yeah, I think Aemon did see that prophecy when he went to finish Aegon off. Yeah, maybe he did. Maybe you guys are right. Maybe he did see it and just isn't and is keeping it to himself. Maybe indeed. Awesome stuff. Let's see what else we got. Awesome stuff. Daemon always looks like a chastised little boy when he is trying to humble himself. How does Matt make this monster of a man almost lovable? And again, it's really funny. Like as much as they kind of try to paint Daemon in this horrible, awful light, something about the performance of Matt Smith just always makes Daemon likable. Even a character like Daemon, who perpetrated something as savage and evil as Blood and Cheese, still has a huge adoration from the fans. And I do think a big part of that is, as you put it, Jess, Matt Smith. Matt Smith, he's just very likable. He's very good in that role. He's very charismatic. He's just got that part of him. He's got that spark, I guess you can say. So even though Daemon has done incredibly dark deeds, you still can't help but like the character. At least I can anyway. I can't help but like Daemon.
I think
a part of that. Yeah, and I think a big part of that is Matt Smith's performance. He's just great in the role. And I really do appreciate good actors that are just really in well-fitting roles. So maybe it's that. Rhaegar must have read something from Viserys. That's why he decided to become a warrior. Yeah, and I think when Rhaegar read a prophecy, that was a different prophecy. That was the prophecy of the prince that was promised, that I believe Rhaegar kind of found. And yes, at one point Rhaegar thought that maybe he himself was going to be the prince who was promised, but it seems like at some point he kind of changes his thinking to realizing that his child is going to be the real prince that was promised. Because yes, as you mentioned, one day he just goes out into the yard and says, "It seems I must become a warrior." So yeah, I get the feeling that Rhaegar, we know Rhaegar was very deep into prophecy and all of that, and maybe they can find some way to tie the prophecy of Ice and Fire to Rhaegar in show canon. But in book canon, it was a different prophecy. But yeah, who knows what they can do with show canon? Maybe they'll kind of connect the two. That's definitely possible. Definitely possible. It is Alice or Cregan that will finally take it north. Take it north. I must have missed something a few messages back. I don't know what take it north is referring to. Let's see what else we got. But yeah, speaking of the north, and speaking of Cregan Stark, I was a little bit bummed that we didn't get any Black Alley this year. I was really hoping to see some Black Alley.
Not yet. It's not her time yet.
No, I mean, she has a pretty big part in the Battle of the Burning Mill pretty early on. So I was hoping to see her then with her weirwood bow, taking out good old Amos Bracken. But
that's true. But we didn't get the Burning Mill.
She's a minor character. She's a pretty minor character too. At the end of the day, it's not like she's a main character. I think I just wanted to see her because she's got a badass weirwood bow. That's all I want to see. Give me that weirwood bow. He told the Blackwoods to be discreet, and he wasn't. Daemon should have executed him for not following orders. And again, that's kind of really what it comes down to. Daemon told him, "Hey, do X," and he went and did Y. So yeah, now you got to pay for it. Now you got to pay for it. I can say from personal experiences that hallucinations will scramble your wits. Absolutely, Jess. I can definitely personally attest to that as well. Yeah, I've had a trip or two in my day, for sure. For sure.
Shit.
We might be getting a glimpse of Dreamfire. We might, yes, especially if anyone who saw the trailer for next week's episode, we get that one scene of Aemond coming up to Helaena and telling her, I need you to mount Dreamfire. I need your help. So yeah, could we potentially see Helaena and Dreamfire entering the fray? That's one thing I've been wondering what they're going to do with Helena's character. They've created some really interesting character development for Helaena that isn't in the book that I'm really enjoying in terms of her being a dragon dreamer. So I'm really wondering what they're going to do with that. What role is Helaena going to play on the series? Because in the book, after Blood and Cheese, she pretty much does nothing. She kind of just remains shut up in the tower and just continues to go madder. But on the show, Blood and Cheese didn't cripple her nearly as much as it did in the book. So I'm really wondering what Helena's role is going to be going forward. And yeah, could we potentially see her and Dreamfire entering the fray? Could we maybe even see Dreamfire take place in any dragon battles even? Who knows?
So I was wondering, because they said there was something about Maelor, do you think it's possible that she's going to say no, she can't ride Dreamfire and announce she's pregnant in some aspect? And that's how they'll bring Maelor in.
Maybe.
So,
I mean, I suppose it's possible. I've been wondering what they're doing with Maelor, if they plan on introducing Maelor at some point, or if they're just not going to do that character at all. Because yeah, even George was like Maelor the Missing in one of his
Maelor the Missing. His not a blog.
Missing.
I'm waiting for another not a blog to come out this week. I'm waiting. It's like that beautiful scene of Alicent floating in the water.
That was a great looking scene, and the score during that
beautiful.
Scene, the music, absolutely
gorgeous.
Phenomenal.
Yes,
such a phenomenal score.
So,
and that's one thing I've really been enjoying about House of the Dragon. It's just been phenomenal music every single episode. That's one thing that has never faltered. Is Ramin Djawadi. He is the real prince that was promised. In my opinion.
Every soundtrack he does is phenomenal.
He's so good.
Every single one, yes.
A master, an absolute master. And even in Game of Thrones, even in season 8 of Game of Thrones that I really didn't personally enjoy myself, one thing that never dropped in quality was the music. Actually, some of the best Game of Thrones music ever, like some of the top tier, some of the best Game of Thrones music I've ever heard comes in season 8.
It does.
Like that really awesome Night King theme that we hear in episode 3. Freaking beautiful. The Last of the Starks theme that we hear in the finale. Freaking beautiful.
Yeah.
So even though the episode didn't kind of live up to the music never faltered on Game of Thrones. And it's not faltering here either. It's been just phenomenal scores.
Yes.
He was definitely trying to see Daemon's loyalty to Rhaenyra. He brings her up multiple times. And maybe that was it a little bit. Maybe Oscar had heard some of Daemon's intentions, because we do hear Daemon kind of openly stating that he's planning on claiming the throne for himself, and that Rhaenyra can join him by his side if she chooses. So maybe that was part of it, because we do hear Oscar Tully state that they take their oaths very seriously, and Riverrun swore an oath to King Viserys and his named heir Rhaenyra. So yeah, maybe that's part of it. Maybe he was trying to suss out how loyal he might be to Rhaenyra. I suppose that's possible. Awesome stuff. Love this channel. Thank you so much, Ando. But honestly, it's you guys that make this channel so fun. Each and every one of you in the chat, each and every one of you that supports the videos and leaves comments and likes and shares, all of that stuff. It really means a lot. And it's because of you guys. You guys are what makes this channel freaking awesome. Not me. I'm nobody. I'm just a dude playing the dude disguised as another dude. It's you guys in the chat. It's you guys in the chat that are the lifeblood of the channel. The absolute lifeblood. Let's see what else we got. I don't see how the final episode will be taking up King's Landing. Otto and Gwaine Hightower not even there. Yeah, and that's another thing. I guess we can talk a little bit about that too. Where exactly do we think season 2 is going to end? We got one episode left. They have been teasing and foreshadowing some certain events. We have been seeing the Lannister army has been on the move for multiple episodes now. They made a very specific point to show us the Lannister army multiple times, which has been leading some of us to believe that maybe we'll get some kind of Battle of the Red Fork action. I know some people were hoping that maybe they'll get the Battle of the Gullet at the end of season 2, and some people were even hoping that we might get the Fall of King's Landing. And after seeing the trailer and seeing where we're going, at this point, I don't know if we're going to get any of those things. We might not even get another battle in this final episode. Brian Condell did state that they filmed 2 major sequences in season 2, one being Rook's Rest, and it seems like the second major sequence that they filmed was actually the event we just got in the previous episode, the Dragonseed storyline, and the Vermithor scenes. So I'm not sure we're even going to get another battle. I hope we do. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, but based on what we saw in that trailer, it's hard to tell if we're going to get any full-blown battle action in the finale. But I guess that's my question to each and every one of you in the chat, and to you, Kayla, as well. Seeing where we are right now, seeing where this episode ended, knowing we only have 1 episode left, and the final episode is reported to be around 72 minutes in runtime, so one of the longest episodes of the season. Where do you guys think season 2 is going to end? Will we see any more big events to end season 2 off on, or will season 2 maybe end on a little bit more of a cliffhanger note? I'm kind of leaning a little bit more cliffhanger note myself. We do know that Tyland will be traveling to meet with the Triarchy in this next episode, as we see him getting slammed into the mud by Shikaro Lothar. So I get the feeling I wouldn't be too surprised if season 2 ends with the Gay Abandon, the ship that is carrying young Viserys and young Aegon. I wouldn't be surprised if season 2 ends with the ship being intercepted by the Triarchy, and that's kind of the big cliffhanger that season 2 ends on, with the actual Battle of the Gullet coming pretty early on in season 3, maybe episode 1 or 2. But that's kind of where I'm hoping season 2 will end, just based on everything we've seen. I was really hoping we were going to maybe get the Battle of the Red Fork, just based on how much they've been really teasing this Lannister army on the move. But at this point, I am not quite sure. We do see the Winter Wolves are going to be coming down from north, so the Winter Wolves will be in the next episode. So I suppose the Red Fork isn't completely out of the question yet. But it's really hard to tell. It is really hard to tell just where exactly they are going to end season 2 off. But again, let me know in the chat, where do you guys think season 2 will end? And Kayla, where do you think season 2 will end? Do you think we'll get any big events, or what do you think is going to happen?
I'm in line with you, but I'm kind of holding out hope that we're going to end up like Rhaenyra's going to go and find Sheepstealer, and Nettles will somehow be there feeding Sheepstealer already. Because otherwise, if Rhaenyra somehow claims Sheepstealer next episode, the events that happened with the Gay Abandon that are to come, she's going to get blamed for. Just saying. Yep. So I'm kind of holding out hope for, I want to see Nettles,
I do.
So
I really want to,
and I'm just hoping, like, I know it sucks for Rhaenyra, like, to get there, think she's going to get this dragon, and there's some girl already feeding it sheep. I mean, I guess that's just like a fantasy in my mind, or a wish that I would hope to come true. Because I want to see Nettles so bad.
I want to see some Nettles too. I mean, again, we've talked about it ad nauseum at this point, and because we're big fans. I mean, we're huge fans of Nettles and of Fire and Blood. I think Nettles is probably the most interesting of all of the dragon seeds. So yeah, hashtag save Nettles. Hashtag save Nettles.
Pretty much. I know we're not going to get the Gullet. We're definitely not going to get like Honeywine. I don't want to see the Fall of King's Landing this early on. I don't.
Me neither.
I do not want to see it next. If I see it next episode, that's going to kind of really, it's going to piss me off. I'm just going to be straight up. It's going to piss me off. It doesn't make sense for the story so soon.
Well, where they are right now, they're not in any position to take King's Landing right now. They don't have the forces. They certainly don't have the forces in place near the capital. It's just based on where everything is. Daemon is only now just gathering his Riverland forces. The Winter Wolves are only just now making it to the Twins. I don't see the taking of King's Landing being possible in this final episode. I mean, maybe it is. I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I suppose anything's possible, but I'm not expecting it. I am not expecting the fall of King's Landing in this season.
We could get Red Fork, though. We could get Red Fork either or early on next season. Gullet and Red Fork early on next season. I mean, but they are doing the events out of order. So I have to separate book knowledge once again. I got to separate it.
And that's the thing. It's always,
it's hard.
Show canon, book canon is book canon, and they are two wildly different things at this point. But it's still okay to compare the show to the book. The book is the source material at the end of the day. So don't let anyone tell you that comparing the show to the book is in any way bad. There's nothing wrong with comparing the show to the book. I mean, it's literally the only thing we have to compare it to. Because I have seen a lot of pushback on that over the last few weeks of people getting some flack when they're comparing the show to the book. I don't know why that triggers people. I mean, the book is the source material at the end of the day. It's okay to compare the two, and it's okay to not compare the two. Both is totally okay. Whatever floats your boat. But it sucks when you see people throwing flack towards others that are comparing the show to the book, because fans are allowed to do what they want, and that's why I welcome everybody here on this channel in all opinions, whether you agree with what we're saying, whether you completely disagree with what we're saying. Everybody is welcome here, and we want everybody to at least feel free to speak their opinion. Robert Downey Jr. confirmed as Kang. No, confirmed as Doom. Robert Downey Jr. was confirmed to be coming back to the MCU playing Dr. Doom, and I could not be less excited. I don't know. That doesn't
I have
excite
my theory
me
on
at
that.
all.
I have my theory on that.
Excite me. It just doesn't excite me at all. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm kind of over the whole MCU. I feel like it peaked at Infinity War. The announcement of Robert Downey Jr. coming back and playing Dr. Doom of all people, I don't know. I'm just not really feeling it. Not really feeling it.
He's going to be playing Tony Stark with Dr. Doom's identity. They're going to do the infamous Iron Man storyline because that comic book has been selling out like crazy all weekend. I'm talking about
people are anticipating. It's been making that book.
They're just swapping it. Because it was Dr. Doom becomes Tony Stark. They're just swapping it. That's what they're doing. The opposite thing, I think.
Sci-Fi Fantasy World says, I think Otto will reappear. I hope so. Again, I really feel like the show has missed a step ever since Rhys Ifans has not been in these scenes. He's one of the best actors on the show. He's one of the most veteran actors on the show. And he's just a very well and good commanding presence on screen. So yes, I do feel the show has been missing a certain something ever since Otto left. So hopefully we see a return of Otto. Because like we said, based on that trailer for next week, we know we are at least going to see Tessarion and maybe even Daeron as well. So who knows? Maybe we'll get an Otto appearance. But yeah, let us know in the chat, where do you guys think season 2 is going to end? Ando says, I think it will end with the dragons flying to King's Landing. Okay, interesting. That's interesting. Maybe not the fall of King's Landing actually happening itself, but maybe them getting ready to head to King's Landing. That could be an interesting ending. I don't think they're even going to get that far, but again, it would be interesting to see. It's really hard to predict now because the show has really, they're following the book for the most part in terms of the big overall story points, but they have kind of been swapping events in and out. Like they have in the book, the taking of Harrenhal, when Daemon takes the castle of Harrenhal, that happens in the book long before even Blood and Cheese happens. Yet on the show, they swapped it around where Blood and Cheese happens long before Daemon even gets to Harrenhal. So the show has proven that they will kind of swap events every once in a while. So just given that, it's getting a little bit harder to predict and anticipate exactly what big event is going to come next. Now, if the book is any indication, if the book is an exact blueprint, then technically we would be getting the Battle of the Gullet next. The Battle of the Gullet is the next big battle that takes place in the book. But again, I don't think we're going to be getting the Battle of the Gullet this year. It's based on them showing us this Lannister force always on the move. I really thought that they might be setting up the Red Fork, but now I'm not so sure we might even get that. But yeah, let me know, guys. What do you think season 2 is going to end on? Let's see what else we got. I think Otto is preparing Daeron to be the next king, says Delilah. Ooh, interesting. Interesting. Well, Daeron is certainly a better choice than Aegon or Aemond. And that's why I really, really enjoyed that scene that we got from Alicent and Gwaine Hightower in episode 6, where Gwaine and Alicent are talking a little bit about Daeron and the difference in how Daeron turned out compared to how Aegon and Aemond turned out. And I really like that line from Gwaine when he says, for all of its benefits, maybe an atmosphere like the Red Keep isn't the best for the forming of young minds. And it's totally true. How many times have we seen princelings turn into little shites? Yet you see Daeron, he was sent to Oldtown at a very young age and grew up in Oldtown. So it seems like he grew up kind, stalwart, courteous. He's kind of everything that his brothers aren't. And that's pretty similar to the book as well. Daeron definitely turns out a lot better than his brothers in the book as well. And maybe that points to Alicent just not being the best mother too. I mean, you can't really blame it all on the Red Keep. You know, some of that blame has to land at Alicent's feet. She definitely was not the best mother. And I mean, that's been clear. But yeah. It's going to be interesting to see Daeron, and who knows, maybe Otto is prepping Daeron to hopefully take over one day. You never know. You never know. Sci-Fi Fantasy World thinks we'll have a cliffhanger ending, and again, I think we might have a cliffhanger ending as well, in terms of maybe seeing season 2 end with the ship getting intercepted by the Triarchy. I think that could be a very interesting cliffhanger to leave it right there. And oh, it looks like we got a Zaid raid from my pal Zaid Comics. Thank you so much, Phil, for the Zaid raid. What is up, Jav Styler? Good to see you, my friend. Welcome one, welcome all. Love to see a good old Zaid raid. Love to see it, my pal. We will not get another battle this season. And honestly, Doc, I'm kind of leaning that way now as well. I mean, and Ryan Condal, that's fun. It's, you know, Ryan Condal speaks very specifically. A lot of us just assumed that we were going to be getting 2 major battles because Ryan Condal specifically says they filmed 2 major sequences. He doesn't specifically say battles. So that, you know, after I kind of went back and listened to what he exactly said, seeing episode 7 and how it kind of played out, I get the feeling that the 2 big sequences that they filmed were the Battle of Rook's Rest in episode 4, and maybe this that just passed in episode 7, the conclusion of the Dragon Seed storyline. So yeah, we might not even have another battle to look forward to. That is possible. That is possible. Helena still has to be crowned. Yeah, Helena was never crowned. I mean, where is Helena's crown? Hashtag give Helena her crown, god dang it. What is up, Phil? Thank you so much for the Zaid raid, my friend. I see all my Zaid peeps in the building. What is up, guys? Always good to see each and every one of you. And of course, if there are any comic book fans in the chat, Zaid Comics is a phenomenal independent comic book creator. He does all of it himself. He's a great writer. He hires some of the best artists working in independent comics. Him and his brother run a phenomenal company called Zaid Comics. Check them out if you guys get a chance. If anyone is a comic book fan, they are putting out some phenomenal independent comic books. Some really, really good stories. Better than the stuff you'll get at DC and Marvel. That is for sure. So thank you so much for the raid, Zaid. I hope you're doing well, my friend. I hope you guys are doing well. I know you're always super busy. I'm going to have to reach out and get you guys on here one of these days and talk about your latest project. So thank you so much for the Zaid raid. Hell yes. Hell yes. How about they end the season with Nettles and catch us off guard? I still believe.
Lord. I'm in the same boat. That's like...
Maybe.
Please. Just please. It will give me an extra point for the season if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, maybe. Erica says, I hope the cliffhanger has nothing to do with the children this time. Yeah, again, I mean, if they do the whole kind of setup to the Battle of the Gullet thing, it could potentially have something to do with the children, or who knows, maybe there'll be another cliffhanger entirely. It's getting harder and harder to predict what they're going to do, because they have shown in the past that they don't mind kind of swapping events here and there. So yeah, it's if nothing else, it makes the show a little bit more interesting. I actually prefer not to know what's coming. It just makes the watching experience a little bit more friendly, a little bit more pleasing. I mean, watching Game of Thrones was a phenomenal experience. But when you're watching something and you're not 100% sure what is going to be coming next, it kind of just adds an extra layer of excitement, just for me personally. That's why I don't mind House of the Dragon kind of going off script every once in a while and kind of doing their own things. I like being surprised every once in a while. Changes are totally okay, as long as the changes make sense within the confines of the story, as long as the changes either help improve the story or don't, or at least don't hinder it. I'm okay with some changes. I am okay with changes, for sure.
And it's done well and the acting is great in the scenes for me. All of that plus that. So
yeah. Ando also thinks Rhaenyra will get Sheep Stealer in the last 5 minutes of the show. Ooh, okay. So maybe we'll see some Sheep Stealer and Rhaenyra action right at the tail of the episode. Okay, Ando. Maybe. There are too many open stories to answer them all in one episode, so I think it will be definitely a cliffhanger. And yeah, it definitely seems like that is the case, Misty. I do wholly agree with you as well. They've set up too many storylines for them to kind of wrap all of them up in this last episode, in terms of they're setting up the Battle of the Gullet with the whole Triarchy coming. They're clearly setting up the Battle of the Red Fork with them shoving this Lannister army down our throat. And of course, there's the fall of King's Landing that's going to be coming. There's no way that they're going to be able to tie all of these things up in one episode. Absolutely not. I 100% agree. So yes, I am expecting a little bit more of a cliffhanger kind of ending for season 2, for sure. For sure. Leo V says Daeron will show up and Otto arrives. Ooh, okay. I like it. Rhaenyra will 100% blame Rhaena. And that's another thing I've been wondering as well. I think we talked a little bit about this in the Discord last night. If this turns out the way that we think it might turn out, if Rhaena does what the show might be setting her up to do, in terms of kind of abandoning young Aegon and young Viserys so she can go off and find this wild dragon, yeah, I get the feeling Rhaenyra is going to be pretty upset with Rhaena if something happens to that ship in her absence. So that's
absolutely.
a good point.
Absolutely.
That is a good point.
That's why I'm hoping, because that would be horrible for her character, number one. But I'm hoping Nettles is there. She gets there, and then we see Nettles feeding Sheep Stealer, and all will be well in the world of House of Dragon.
Yeah, Rhaenyra's chasing this dragon down, thinking that it's just this wild dragon that she might be able to claim, only to find out that it's already been claimed by Nettles. It would be kind of ironic.
It would be. I mean, it sucks to be her, but she'll get hers at the end.
She'll get hers eventually, hopefully. Yeah, morning will come.
Yes.
I have no clue. So much seems to be happening in the trailer, but where it leads is a mystery. And that's kind of the sense I got as well. The trailer looks very interesting. It looks like there is going to be some fun stuff happening in this final episode. But in terms of like seeing that one scene that really nails down one big event, I didn't really see any of those scenes in particular in that trailer. So yeah, it's really hard to nail down just where exactly they're going to end season 2 and where season 2 is going to end in terms of the source material, how much will get adapted this year. Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that if they don't do the Battle of the Gullet in season 2, and again, I don't think we will get the Battle of the Gullet personally, season 3 is going to be absolutely insane in terms of the just sheer number of battles, important battles that they're going to have to showcase. They're going to have their work cut out for them in season 3. Like season 3 is going to have probably twice the amount of battles that season 2 did, even though season 2 really has only had 2 significant battles up until this point in terms of the Burning Mill, which we didn't really see, and Rook's Rest. But season 3 is going to be chock full of battles, if the book is any indication anyway. It's going to be chock full.
It should be.
It's going to be chock full. Good stuff. Good stuff. I want to see Ulf's drunk ass fall off of his dragon. I'd like to see that too. I would like to see that too. And after the whole Battle of the Gullet, like the way that it's described, how Ulf is celebrating, I believe it said that he starts riding a horse naked down down the street or something.
Yes, he does.
Something like that, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
Ulf has some fun after the Gullet. Ulf has some fun for sure. For sure. But yeah, it's again, yeah, I can see multiple setups for season 3 showing both sides' strengths with dragons, ships, people, and armies. And yeah, they really are. It's like just based off all the groundwork that they're laying, it does seem like they're setting up some very interesting things to happen pretty early on in season 3. I know season 2 kind of started off with a bang with Blood and Cheese. So I definitely get the feeling season 3 is going to follow a similar kind of format in terms of season 3 starting with a pretty big event, maybe the Battle of the Gullet or something along those lines. But yeah, they're setting up some interesting things. They are definitely setting up some interesting things. Bob Cam thinks it's going to be the Battle of the Red Fork, and that was my original thought as well. Just based off how much they have been making a point to show us this Lannister army. I thought for sure that they were maybe going to move the Battle of the Red Fork up a little bit, and we would get the most badass squire in the history of A Song of Ice and Fire, a squire that even puts my boy Podrick to shame, in Pate the Longleaf.
Yes, be so
Give
cool.
me Pate the Longleaf. That's what I want to see. I want to see. And yes, Radical Z, I think Daeron's dragon is in the trailer. He is. Yes, we do see Tessarion in the trailer for next week. I do have the still for Daeron the Daring's Tessarion, this beautiful, beautiful dragon here. So yes, we are going to be getting Tessarion in next week's episode, guys. Tessarion the Blue Queen is coming. It is coming. I'm afraid Rhaenyra is going to be trapped somehow in the Vale. Ooh, interesting. Interesting. I mean, she could potentially get lost. I feel like her getting lost is definitely a possible scenario. She doesn't know the Vale very well, if at all. If she continues to just run deeper and deeper into the mountains of the Vale, trying to track down this dragon, and she is unsuccessful, yeah, she might find herself trying to find her way out. I mean, she might end up getting lost if she's not careful, but I guess we'll have to see. I guess we shall have to see. But yeah, again, I want to get everybody's ratings like we usually do here on the channel before we close it down. I want to get everybody's rating for episode 7. And yes, Tyler B, we got the Winter Wolves coming. Hell yes, my friend.
I cannot wait.
Yeah, Kayla and I are super pumped about the Winter Wolves. I mean, Kayla and I love House Stark, like a lot. So yeah, I imagine she was just as excited as I was when seeing this shot. But yes, we have the Winter Wolves coming in the finale, and I cannot wait to see them in action. And I cannot wait to see Roddy the Ruin. I can't wait to see eventually Red Rob Rivers. Everything that happens at the Butcher's Ball. Bring on the Winter Wolves, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be absolutely awesome. Could Cregan Stark replace Roddy the Ruin? I mean, I suppose anything's possible, but I'm not expecting it. I don't see Cregan. I honestly, I hope not too. Like, Roddy the Ruin is such a good character that I don't. As much as I love Cregan Stark and want to see Cregan more, yeah, I wouldn't want Cregan to be replaced. I wouldn't want Roddy the Ruin to be replaced with Cregan. Roddy has such an interesting character arc, and he's such a badass warrior that I really want to see his story develop itself. So I suppose anything's possible, but no, I'm not expecting them to give Cregan Roddy the Ruin storyline. Cregan has his own storyline that he's going to have to get to towards the end of the series. And it's hard to tell, but I wouldn't be too surprised if this is Roddy the Ruin right here, this gray beard wielding the axe. I would not be surprised if that is Roddy the Ruin.
I'll be amped.
I'll be so amped. But either way, yes, we do have the Winter Wolves coming in the final episode, and I cannot freaking wait. But of course, as we always do it, I want to hear each and every one of you's rank for episode 7. When it comes to episode 7, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being horrible and 10 being perfect, where would you guys rate episode 7, The Dragon Seeds? And Kayla, what rank would you give episode 7?
I need to do a rewatch, but as of right now, I'm torn between either a 7, 7.5, possibly an 8. So, yeah, the first half of the episode, this episode was still missing something for me. The last half of the episode, absolutely phenomenal. It captivated me. The scenes with the dragons were really cool. There were some beautiful, like there was so much beautiful cinematography throughout the episode, but there was still something missing for me with this episode. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know if there were things that possibly were unnecessary, I felt, that didn't add to the storytelling or add to the episode in any way, shape, or form. I can't put my finger on it right now, but there was something missing from this episode for me. And like I said, the ending was phenomenal, and there were scenes that I enjoyed tremendously, but there's still something missing from this episode. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's fine. That is totally fine. I love hearing honest scores. Misty gives this one a 6. Oh no, really enjoyed Hugh and Ulf. Also, Oscar taming Daemon, but the rest was lacking something. And that, again, that is totally cool. I love getting everybody's honest opinions, whether you thought it was a 10 or whether you thought it was a freaking -1. I love hearing it. Ando gives it a 7.5 out of 10 avocados. Yes. Caitlin gives it an 8.5. Henry Bemis gives it a solid 9. Awesome stuff, guys. Awesome stuff. Greek Girl gives it an 8.5 as well. Very respectable. Very respectable. Yeah, could we get the line, "We have come to die for the Dragon Queen" next week?
I love it.
I certainly hope so.
Yes, I hope so.
I really hope so. Like, if there's one line of dialogue in the book that does make it into the show, I hope it's that line. I hope it is that line.
I would scream at my TV.
Yeah. Rick Bird gives it a 9 out of 10. Solid, respectable score. Awesome. Barbara gives it a 7 out of 10. Respectable. Tyler B gives it an 8.5 out of 10 as well. Awesome. Awesome stuff. Radical Z gives it a 5.6. Okay. I respect it. Laura Butler gives it an 8.5 out of avocados out of 10 as well. We got a 6.5 in the chat. Awesome stuff. We got a 10, our very first 10 in the chat. Well, that is awesome. I am glad you enjoyed the episode. That is great to hear. We got an 8.5 as well from Sci-Fi Fantasy World. I love it. April May, I am always 10 so far. Oof, from April May. I love it. Ando is saving his 10 out of 10 for Nettles. Well, you might be saving it a while, pal. You might be saving it a while. A solid 8 from Delilah. That is awesome. Love to see it. Is missing Jace, says the playback room. Yes, we did get one pretty interesting Jace scene. But yeah, Jace has been one of the better character arcs in season 2. I feel like he's starting to come into his own a little bit more. I really enjoyed Jace in, I believe it was episode 5, when he really kind of just takes matters into his own hands, flies his dragon Vermax down to the twins, and wins the patronage of House Frey, all while defying his mother's orders. So I really liked seeing Jace kind of step up on his own and really kind of just getting things done, really. Hopefully we see a little bit more of that. Hopefully we see a little bit more of Jace. Cannibal the Dragon gives it an 8 or an 8.5. It is missing Cannibal the Dragon, and it will get 1 or 2 more points. I'm right there with you. If you would have thrown Cannibal into this episode on top of everything else we got, it probably would have rose up an extra point or 2 in my ranking as well. Just the appearance of Cannibal would have risen the rank.
That's
Honestly,
worth a whole point.
It's worth a whole point, and that's what I did with King Viserys. Having King Viserys in this episode alone is worth an extra point.
Mm-hmm.
For me, anyway.
Agreed. No, for me too.
Awesome. 6.5, because this was the first episode where I actually fast forwarded a part of it. Oh, interesting. And I've had some scenes where I've come close to almost fast forwarding it myself at times, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with liking the scenes you like and disliking the scenes that you don't like. That is totally cool. But no, 6.5. I respect it. I respect it. 7.5 for a 7.5 from Rockers. Shout out to Oscar Tully. Hell yes. Shout out to Oscar Tully. Oscar Tully was good. I got to say, I was impressed with young Oscar in this episode. 8.5, bring back Daemon. Yes, bring back the Rogue Prince. We got a little glimpse of the Rogue Prince again as he beheaded Sir Willam. But yes, we need the Rogue Prince back proper and stat. Awesome stuff, guys. Awesome stuff. Jess gives it a 9 out of 10. Point deducted for no cannibal. Okay, I respect it. I respect it. I like it. I like it. And Leo V gives it a 9 as well. Awesome, awesome. What is Dead May Never Die? Yes, we did get a little mention of Dalton Greyjoy in a previous episode, so hopefully we will see the Red Kraken, if not in this season, maybe next season. But yeah, great scores, guys. I love to see everybody's scores. It seems like they were kind of all over the board, and that's always interesting to see how an episode is received, where some portion of the fans really, really love it, and some portion of the fans thought it could have been done a lot better. And that's what's fun about these discussions. That's what's fun about having these streams, is getting in here. I love hearing everybody's opinion. I love seeing what scenes work for you guys, what scenes maybe don't work for you guys, and everything in between. So I very much appreciate everybody taking the time to come and hang out with us and taking the time to give us your scores as well. For me, when it comes to this episode, I am going to have to give it I'm kind of teetering back and forth between 7.5 and 8. Part of me wants to give it an 8 for the great Vermithor scene and for the great Viserys scene, but I also am acknowledging that the episode did feel like there was just something kind of missing a little bit as well. So yeah, I'm kind of going back and forth between 7.5 and 8. Maybe after another watching, I'll have a more definitive score. But for right now, I'm going to give it, let's split the difference. I'm going to say 7.75 for right now. I'm splitting the difference. But yeah, again, I definitely still think it was a great episode. It was definitely better than episodes 5 and 6. I do feel like this was the best episode since episode 4. I mean, Agreed. It seems like episode 4 and this episode are the two highlights of the season. And not just because those are the action episodes, just because they're just better episodes in terms of character development, in terms of good dialogue, good scenes, good cinematography, very good scores. It's not just action that makes a show. For me personally, I don't tune into a show just looking for action. I'm just looking for good writing in any form. So yeah, I'm going to stick right there at around a 7.5, 8 or so, 7.75, I guess. I'll split the difference again. But yeah, it's still a good episode. I thought it was better than episode 5 and 6. I do think the Dragon Seed storyline, the sowing of the seeds, could have been handled a little bit differently, or maybe a little bit better in terms of, including a little bit more of the dragons that take place in the book, in terms of maybe some sheep stealer action. I mean, some cannibal action would have made this Dragon Seed storyline 10 times better, in my opinion. And again, maybe that's just my bias because I'm a huge cannibal fan. But if the Dragon Seed storyline, if the sewing was a little more accurate to the book, I probably would have given it a higher rating. But I did still enjoy the scenes that we got. I really enjoyed these scenes of Hugh Hammer in particular. And I really enjoyed learning a little bit more backstory about Hugh Hammer. They're really fleshing this character out in the show compared to in the book. And now we're even finding out that he has a very special Targaryen lineage, being the son of Sarah Targaryen. So some really good info dumps, some really good character development, some good world building moments, and the plot finally started to move forward a little bit. And that's been one of my big problems with Daemon's storyline. It's been the Daemon Harrenhal DMT trippiness stuff. It was fun at first. It was fun for like the first 2 or 3 episodes. But after 3, 4, 5 episodes in a row of Daemon doing nothing but tripping balls and really not accomplishing anything, it just started to feel a little too repetitive. So I'm hoping that they're getting to the end of this Harrenhal DMT trippiness stuff from Daemon. Hopefully he's coming out of it, and hopefully we will see the return of the Rogue Prince that we know and love. But again, big thank you to each and every one of you. I really enjoyed, again, I definitely enjoyed this episode a little bit more than 5 and 6 for sure. It had some really good scenes, some really good sets. Love these interior shots of the inside of the Dragon Mount. I've really been loving all of these shots. And like one of you said in the chat earlier, definitely kind of gives off some of those Smog and Bilbo vibes from inside the mountain there. So again, solid episode. Definitely an episode that I did enjoy a little bit more than the previous two, so I will give it that. But here we go, folks. We are getting down to the final episode. Only one episode left, guys. Kayla, it feels like the season just freaking started. We have only one episode left now. It's crazy.
I'm not emotionally prepared for this. I'm not. I mean, at least we have a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms coming next year. So this is
true. This is true. It seems like we will probably have a decent wait in between seasons 2 and 3 of House of the Dragon. I probably wouldn't expect House of the Dragon season 3 to come in 2025. It'll probably be a 2026 release.
Yeah,
it seems like that's what they're kind of planning for, a 2026 release for House of the Dragon season 3. But we will still have a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms probably around springtime in 2025, probably not too late into the season. So at very least, we'll at least have A Song of Ice and Fire series to look forward to every year. But if we get Aegon's Conquest greenlit, if the Corlys Velaryon spin-off animated series gets greenlit, along with all of the other tons of A Song of Ice and Fire shows they have in pre-production or they have developing that haven't been greenlit yet, if some more of these shows do officially get greenlit, then I imagine we could potentially get maybe even more than 1 or 2 A Song of Ice and Fire shows a year if some of these shows, again, do get greenlit, which hopefully they do. I really hope we get an announcement soon that Aegon's Conquest is getting ordered to series. It seems like that is the closest one to being greenlit as of right now in terms of the progress that they're making on the script. So yeah, there it is, folks. We have some awesome stuff to look forward to in the future. It looks like we're going to have a lot of A Song of Ice and Fire shows to look forward to probably for the next 10, 20 years. It looks like HBO is not going to be slowing down anytime soon. This is definitely the property they seem to be most invested in. So yeah, we're going to have a lot of A Song of Ice and Fire content to look forward to over the next few years. And hopefully the quality continues to stay top-notch. Even though I have definitely had some of my problems with Season 2 of House of the Dragon, I have not been shy to admit that. There has definitely been some issues here in Season 2. But hopefully these last 2 episodes are ending off with a bang, and we will head into Season 3 with some good momentum, hopefully. But if nothing else, again, we do have Dunk and Egg to look forward to pretty early on in 2025. We, of course, will be covering everything that has to do with Dunk and Egg and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. So definitely come back and hang out with us for that when that show does drop. And if anyone has not checked out the series From yet, FROM on MGM Plus, definitely check that show out as well. That will be the next show that we are going to be covering here on the channel. House of the Dragon has only 1 episode left, but From Season 3 is just around the corner now. Season 3 will be starting on September 22nd. So if you guys do want to get into From, you have plenty of time to catch up. There's been 2 seasons so far, 10 episodes each. Season 3 starting at the end of September. So you guys have plenty of time to get into From and catch up on seasons 1 and 2. And I promise you, you will not be disappointed if you do invest the time to get into From. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. It is the best show on TV right now by far. So check that one out and definitely come and hang out with us for our From live streams. I will be doing a From live stream Wednesday night after the new Season 3 trailer just dropped. So definitely check out my Season 3 trailer breakdown if you haven't already. Check out my Episode 7 House of the Dragon episode breakdown that is up on the channel right now as well. Check that out if you haven't already. And again, big thank you to each and every one of you for coming and hanging out with us week after week, time after time. You guys have been so supportive of the channel. And again, I can't thank each and every one of you enough. You guys really are the best. So until next time, Kayla, thank you so much for joining me, my friend. You are always a welcome addition on this panel. And of course, the biggest thank you goes out to you guys in the chat. And as always, stay safe out there. Be kind to one another, and until next time, I will see you on the next one.
Gods. Kings. fire. And blood. Dreams didn't make us kings. Dragons did.
The threat of war looms.
There is no war so hateful as a war between kin.
I mean to fight this war and win it.
I will not be thought weak. I wish to spill blood.
And no war so bloody as a war between dragons.
You stand with a dragon of House Targaryen! What do you want?
It does seem to me that you've made rather a mess here.
Whose side are you on?
The old ways call for justice.
Prince Daeron's dragon was taken to wing.
House Targaryen is the blood of the dragon. If any may lay claim to it, what are we then?
With these dragons, peace will be restored.